Look out, it's me, Michael Myers. Haha, not really.
And I, Norman Bates.
Norman
What's
Bates.
that, mother?
I'm Freddy Krueger. I just say the wrong thing to annoy people. Because that's what I do. How are you?
Yeah. I'm all right, man. I'm all right. I'm tired. But look at this sexy overlay, what Richard has done for all of us.
I also left my mic on mute for some reason, so they missed me hilariously trolling. And now the chat's going to be like, we can't hear you. But thank you, yes. I tarted up the overlay. I'm going to move our name tags outside of the window because they look a bit more visible. There we go. We've got our social media. If you want to follow us on Instant Graham or Twitter.
Instant Graham, cousin of Golden Graham. But a very different service.
I just assume because it's American, it is short for Graham, and it can only be therefore short for Instant Graham. Which is see, people are freaking. Like I'm still as freaked out that I'm on the wrong side. I tell you what's freaking me out. I'm still Alex, is that because we've moved over to Zoom for technical reasons, because we've thought perhaps that'd be a bit better, and it's going well so far. But it's mirrored. This is backwards as to reality. You know, it's my bookshelf is on the wrong side now, and
yeah. Your watch is going to be on your right wrist.
Oh my god! So this actually is the best thing about today's costume is this actually is a Friday the 13th Part 3/4 cosplay, because I realised that I've got a sort of button-up, pocketed, greenish shirt, which is what Jason wears in the third one, and then in the third one he has kind of a singlet beneath, exposed slightly in the V shape of the collar there, and his sleeves rolled up. And I put on Twitter last night that I was going to do Part 4, but in Part 4 he's got his sleeves rolled down. I was like, oh, that's uncomfortable, and I can't see the singlet.
I have a dark green shirt I could have worn.
Yeah, no, you're a camp counsellor. I'm Brad Councilman, the doomed camp counsellor. This mask was made by Paul Butcher of Spandex Raygun ages ago. He made a Judge Death one, and this Val Verde Jason mask, which is just awesomely appropriate for Halloween stream. So there you go. And because of coronavirus, I'll be keeping it on for the entirety of the stream. No, I won't. That's fuck that. That sounds like an awful nightmare, and I'm not doing it. But yeah, so there you go. How's your week been?
My week has been it's quick. It seems to have gone very quick, as always, and mired in the doldrums of routine. Although
mired
two things
in
happened.
The doldrums of this, one of the saddest things I've ever heard in my life.
I know. Three things good happened though. And many more probably, but they passed me by. I finished listening to the whole of Oast House, which is great, which I had a great time with. Obviously, we're gonna probably
we've already been talking about that.
Yeah. And secondly, I got to see someone's. I was very envious of my wife because we watched The Rock, and it was the first time she'd ever seen it. So I was like, oh, she got to see someone experience that film for the first time in about, I don't know, 25 years since it came out, or whatever, however long it is. So that was cool. So I enjoyed watching that. And then third good thing that happened was that Mr. Brad Watson stopped by to see us on Sunday on his way back to York, and
lovely.
Probably imminent house arrest. But that was cool. So I got to see him, catch up with him, chat about what he's got going on.
Nice.
There we are.
Cool.
How about yourself? Your good self?
My good self. I did something kind of cool yesterday. Well, need to be careful what I say on broadcast, but
He learned to suck his own. Oh,
that's why I'm wearing this mask, because I punched all my teeth out to make the blowjobs better. I filmed at Cambridge Airport yesterday, so I was like in the airport terminal. And Cambridge Airport is a really fucking, because like no one fly. You can fly commercially from Cambridge Airport, but like no one does. There's very few airlines that operate out of it, and so like. There's like an aircraft just parked on the runway outside departures, and then there's a bunch of pilots just sat around scratching themselves, drinking coffee and hanging out. And we were filming in the conference room upstairs, and just like as we were filming, like C-130 kind of military planes were coming and going. We saw one go, but then like loads of small aircraft coming and going. It's kind of neat.
Cool.
But mostly we were filming a company update for the airport, and I did not find the content of what was being filmed terribly interesting. But it's kind of neat, So I did that.
Was that stupid yellow biplane taking off and landing constantly all day?
I cannot report any particular coloured not that I saw. No, there's lots of kind of fixed wing aircraft, single wing aircraft, down on the tarmac. I did watch. I watched a thing. Those kind of fucking this is how we make this type programs. I watched one the night before. The night before about. Have you seen these like rocket powered parachutes they can put in small aircraft now? I think it's an invention of about 15-20 years ago.
Rocket-powered parachutes.
Mate, it's amazing. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. This guy invented this thing where they have a very, very, very... to solve the problem of putting a massive parachute in an aircraft to deploy it in case of engine failures and stuff like that. So they've got a very, very thin fabric, and they compress it down in kind of this huge parachute into the size of a box. But the only way to deploy it in time is to have like essentially armed bombs inside that explodes it out. So they use kind of these rockets that blast it out, and then the straps are... kind of caked in the fiberglass of the chassis, and then in the event of engine failure, you blast it and you just freakishly drift down, and it saved hundreds of lives since it was implemented. Because you wouldn't get one on a jetliner, but it was cool. Let's get into this mask. Hold on. Oh, Jesus, that's fuck me. I'll probably put it on later for lols, but bloody hell.
When you were a kid, did you have those plastic masks that like the condensation started to accumulate? But it's like it's not it's like your breath liquidized on the inside of it.
And also the kind of plastic would split and sort of dig into your face. That's the kind of visceral memory I have of those. It's just going like, ow, oh, ow, and it's just like my own sort of fluid breath.
Because I was always like, well, this isn't what Batman looks like. I think I had a Batman one, but it was just like literally had the horrible string that dug into your ears around the side, and Batman had it all over his head, and this just was on my face.
Well, that's
shit.
This is fun. Well, I've seen what I will say. Like Heavens for Small Mercies is that now they appear to be made out of a kind of soft foam. When I see those cheap masks, it's like good. The next generation doesn't have to be traumatized by painful, cheap Halloween masks.
Sure, I just remember, the Batman one I had the face on as well, so I cut that off, so it would be my, or my lower jaw. But obviously, in cutting it off, I had the precision of a 7-year-old, and therefore ended up with rather sharp corners and lacerations to my face.
The deadly sharp corners.
Yeah.
The deadly sharp corners. I'm loving. There are a few people in the chat freaking out in our switch positions, and when we first started, these were our original positions, but that was in the primitive days of spring, which seems like a million years ago now, when we were just kind of bolting it together, and I was on the other side. So when I can't remember what point I ended up on the other side of the screen, but I'm glad Zoom's reversed me, because it creates. I hate having the wrong eye line. If my camera's orientated like this, it looks like I'm looking away from you. Because it's the artifice that we're actually looking at each other when we're not.
Fair enough. Don't break the illusion.
Well, exactly. Yeah, eyeline, darling, eyeline. I'll probably say hello to everyone. So 67 in the room. We've got 3 on Twitch. I see a asparagus video over on Twitch. You and Callister, did you lads see the did you see the kind of boxing weigh-in they did with Freddy and Jason when this movie came out? That was quite cool.
Oh yeah,
they kind of walked out and did it in character. That was kind of fun. Let me see what we got. So, Carl, have you taken the mask off yet, Richard? Yes. It's so hot. It's so hot. Jazz.
I was just looking in Papal. Michael Andrew Cappett's sent us £10 as always. Thank you, Andrew. That's really, really kind of you. Michael Small also sent us £10, not so small in terms of his donations. And he says, "Evening, chaps. The wife, Annalise, is on a trip with her dad to the remote woodlands of northern Maine. He's hoping she doesn't come back as a horror movie survivor. Maine. But she sends her best to the both of you." We love your channel.
Fuck it. I'm gonna fuck it.
I'm too tired. Been loving the hilarious Alien Isolation streams. We've been doing silly Ian Holm robot voices all week.
We got some robot action on the game stream last week. It was, I am TaxBot. Is that tax deductible? It was kind of a workshopping the thing. Ivan was a bit downhearted that people didn't take to TaxBot in the same way they did to Milky Ian Holm. But then I am Snorlax did a TaxBot meme in the Val Verde Reddit. One of my I should engage in the Val Verde Reddit more, but it's just I don't have time because I'm a lazy fuck. Andrew K in the chat, thank you again, Andrew K, for your weekly donation. God bless. I'll do a quick name rattle off, shall I?
Please do. Just before you do, Adam Cadwell
taking my breath
on the 17th of October, which I don't think we would have counted for on last stream.
That wasn't gaming. Oh, that was Saturday. Oh, thank God, that was the game stream. Thank you so much. God, sorry. Yeah, because sometimes it just lets me into the PayPal, but other times it wants me to send a verification to your phone, and I'm just kind of like, I can't be bothered. I'll read out some names, shall I? Andrew K, Benny Legend, Captain Meets Adventures, Carl Goddard, Carl Technocop, Dan Lars, Ewan Callister, Floyd75, Dylan, I Am Snorlax, Leonard Leone Films, Mika Brooks. Oh, Mika Brooks, hi Mika. Mark Garside, Mr. HEC 381991, Omar Zambon, Petter Danielson, Phil Rob 1978, Professional Moron, Rob Myers, Ross Sanders, Sam Jixbury, Sam Montgomery, Steve Allen, and TA. The Territorial Army. I can't believe the entire territorial army and tits and ass every week. Not that I can pronounce it, thus ruining the timing of that
They're all sat around one computer writing.
Loads of tits and asses.
Never mind.
Oh no! I want the territorial army and the tits and asses. Yeah. Richard, your voice sounds like it's got an echo. Cool. That's annoying. Oh no! I want the territorial army and the tits and asses. Yeah, there is. I just blasted everyone with a double echo. That's annoying. Since I tested it, I haven't got something coming out somewhere. Hold on. I'll have to check. That's on mute.
I shall take this opportunity to drink.
Is it because it's running through Zoom?
Because I'm tired and this is a bad idea.
I wish I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
I'm getting some audio up somewhere. I fucking try to get the sound right and it's never fucking right and it just drives me up the fucking wall.
Yeah, didn't
Is that because that was set to that? I'll try that now.
I've got a Glenlivet Caribbean Reserve, which is a single malt Scotch whiskey, matured in believe the rum casks, which will be interesting.
I've had one of those before. Yeah, it's the ultimate crossover.
Well, I had a rum, John Watlin's rum from the Bahamas. Very, very nice. I had a rum that was matured in Jack Daniel's casks. So I've had rum matured in bourbon casks and whiskey matured. I love that. I sent Richard a VM as the kids.
That's what the kids like.
On WhatsApp last night with Alan Partridge. But the thing I've come to realise from listening to all 6.5 hours or whatever it is of those tales is it's the out of breath. Sort of. He always does that thing. He sort of goes.
He does those kind of swallows now, doesn't he? Because there's a few bits where he has to run or get out of breath.
Well, he does it in I Am Alan Partridge. He does it in I think season 2 of that where he's sort of. It's because he's like heavy breathing and he forgets to swallow or whatever. It's that guy. Yeah. Anyway,
News. It's just an observation. Okay, let me just check some stuff here. Yeah,
fruity, but not tooty.
I'm so left you out to sea here. I'm just frustrated and trying to get my sound sorted.
Richard's trying to get his sound. Well, let's talk while he does that.
I don't actually know what the problem is, so that might be an issue.
Hello, Dad. Duncan is very quiet all of a sudden. I don't know if it's because I was turned away from my mic.
Could be that.
But if I'm still quiet,
you're going up into the red there when you did a little week off.
Oh,
it's because you're
a week off there.
A week off.
Freddy versus Jason does sound like some sort of amateur boxing night in Glasgow down the local snooker hall, doesn't it? And it's Freddy. Everyone Dad, you'll know we have a cousin Freddy. Everyone's like Freddy, hey Freddy.
Hey.
Everyone's called Freddy in Glasgow. I can't do accents without having an ear because otherwise it gets very difficult to talk. But I'm sure Angelo right now is offended and sorry about that.
He'll be thrilled. Okay, well look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take off the noise suppression filter, which sounded great for listeners, see if that fixes it, but I honestly don't know what the problem is. So from now on I'm going to sound different. Is that better or is that worse? You're going to have to tell me. Because apparently it's impossible to get clean audio out if you're me.
I don't think it's you. I think it's just, these things always seem to be this delicate balance of algorithms that don't really work very well. So there you go. Don't sweat it, is what I'd say. Fuck it, whatever.
No.
I don't know. But that's my professional approach to life.
I can't even check it because I can't monitor my own audio. And if I play it back on the computer, it's going to come out through your audio channel and echo.
Yeah, I can't hear unless I mute. I could mute Zoom and listen to it on.
Yeah, maybe I could just do it on my phone. Give me a sec. Because otherwise, I don't know what to say, guys. I don't know what to say. Unless I get my shotgun mic out.
It's not too bad. It just sounds like you're in a well. It does sound sort of like you're in a computer well. Like it sounds really digitized. It's weird. It might have been the compression of the filter.
Is it because we're on Zoom? Is it because we're on Zoom? That's the main thing that's changed. Well, I've got a different mic as well. But hold on. Well, fun start to the stream.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be fine. Come on, everyone.
Yeah, people say it's like I've got two live mics, but that is not the case.
You're not. It's not coming through your computer or something instead.
I've checked and double checked. It is weird. I wonder if it's because of the only thing I can think of is if it's Zoom. If I change this mic on here, so you get the one out of my laptop, that's probably going to make it worse, isn't it? Now it's better, both of you, says Twitch.
Okay,
it's fixed, says Ewan.
Barrel, says Duncan.
The thing is, because there's a delay now, so it's going to be like, oh no, now it's gone back again. Now it's gone back again.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait. Wait, I'm wondering. I think it could be just the shitty data rate from Zoom, and then it's kind of back to Skype next week.
Mine isn't coming through like that, is it?
No, yours sounds fine. Sounds bad to me, but I'll cope. Okay, entertain for a minute. I'm going to see what I can do.
All right. What to talk about? The problem is for me right now. It's not. I don't have much to talk about other than. I mean, I don't think many of us have much to talk about in lockdown because not a lot goes on apart from lockdown. And I say lockdown because, I mean, it might as well be at this point. I know they're doing regional lockdowns and what have you, but basically we're all buggered, and no one's doing anything, are they? Because it's no one knows whether to open a business or not. So it's pretty shit. So yeah, there's not much to talk about. Jubilance Exaltus, it's a rather good name. Says I was a little low, but just boosting me. Well, I can turn my gain up here because for I am going through a desk, so I can creep myself up. I don't know if that helps. You let me know. I've put it up a bit, so if that's better, let me know. Steve Allen, Duncan, how was Oast House? Do you like the high noon aspect of it? Are you auditioning to be my troll, Stephen Allen? Because if you are, I hope that's not your real name. But yes, yeah. High Noon is hilarious. Did that? That's one of the funniest things. We sat outside the guy's house. But yeah. Benny Legend, Duncan, have you got any roles set up in the near future? Not. Not. I wouldn't know. I mean, I've got things that people want me to do. That they've talked to me about doing, but don't know if they're going to happen. I'm penciled for an advert. But
is it an advert for pencils?
It's not, funny enough. No,
Shame.
but that would be great. So for Ford motor cars. But there you go. But yeah, I don't know if I'll get to do that or not. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, the thing with being penciled is it means you're probably down to like the last 4. So that sounds great until you realise that you're still more likely to not get it than you are to get it, even at that stage. So we'll see. But,
oh shit! Now they're even talking about how fucking jobs in Tesco are like 100 applicants because of all the redundancies all over and shit like that. You know, like that's gone fucking crazy.
I suppose. Yeah, I know. You're gonna have to have like a degree in quantum physics just to get in Tesco.
Yeah, so that's kind of. I mean, I had to pitch a thing recently. That was like I think I talked about it. It was like national lottery money, but we have no idea how many tenders went in, and they're not going to tell us. And the deadline's passed. We haven't heard anything, so it's like, wow. You know,
dude, it's yeah. That's going to be the problem I think as well coming out of this that people aren't necessarily talking about is the competition in the jobs market is going to be huge. Like not just on the sort of employment level. Because there's obviously going to be fewer jobs and more unemployed people, but also because, and it's there won't be unemployed people. How do I say this without? There won't be your kind of. There's going to be unemployed people at all strata of life. It's going to be like you're going to have very qualified unemployed people. You're going to have like people who worked in a job for years and have tons of experience who would never have normally found themselves unemployed. And it's like I don't think those jobs are necessarily going to return quick enough to support those people, so it's going to be difficult. Don't know what the answer is. It's shit, and but...
I've just solved the audio problem.
Oh, have you? Well done.
Yes, I found out that actually OBS had my PC mic and my XLR mic running at once, so I had to mute that because I destroyed everything in OBS and rebuilt it from scratch today, as I hope you might notice from the intro. And I won't lie, I spent since Monday. I bought the new microphones and I've done all this stuff. I spent all week trying to make the audio go well, and then I go on the stream and it didn't go well, and it made me a little bit stroppy. So I've just been a little bit stroppy for about 10 minutes, and then I found that I just had to press the mute button and it's fixed it. So thank you for your patience. I was just having a little bit of a wobbler because I've invested in new gear to make the streams better, and then it's like, no, this is shit. But it's fine now, so it's okay.
Good. There you go. Excellent.
Good. Sorted. Marvelous. I'll give you back nice mic on Zoom. I'm also was a little bit stroppy because I'm kind of preferring Zoom for a number of reasons. And
why does that make you stroppy?
Well, because it was like, oh, is Zoom the problem? We're going to have to go back to Skype. Like technically, I find using Skype really rough. It's a bit of a rough thing. I think also I need to do a little bit of tweaking. There's a delay between my Zoom has a bit of a delay that Skype didn't have betwixt audio and video for me. Right. So I need to put a latency in there. And Ewan Callister is asking, Petter Dennis says 2 mics, I knew it. What did I win? Check in the post, Petter, promise. Ewan Callister is asking rather insistently about Rambo in Mortal Kombat 11. Have you got any opinions about Rambo in Mortal Kombat 11? Or did you know that was a thing?
No,
that's the newest mad thing. The bizarre fever dream of 2020 continues because Rambo is in Mortal Kombat 11, along with RoboCop and the Terminator.
Right. Well, okay. I mean, does he have explosive arrows? I suppose.
I assume so. Yeah. When they did RoboCop, he could like shoot rockets out of his dick or whatever. And I think in Mortal Kombat 10 they had like Leatherface and stuff. So. I suppose there must be other characters in, I think, like Stryker. There are characters who don't have magical powers, but it is kind of like Rambo is just a guy, though. I mean, he's cool, but he's just a guy
with a fucked up mouth.
Yeah, it's Stallone's voice as well, because I find it's still bizarre to me that Schwarzenegger wouldn't do the Terminator for that. But
yeah, you would think like that because yeah. I don't know. They don't seem to be. No one seems to find a decent Schwarzenegger impersonator.
We've got you here.
I'm not the best.
You're
I'm
fucking
right.
better than the one in Mortal Kombat. Tell you that that much.
I tell you what, like, I didn't mind because when TGV got me to do, he's got me to do voices over the years for various like mock phone calls that he's done with people at the start of his videos, and one was talking to Arnold. I think that was the last one I did actually. He was like because he sent me the script and go, just can you record that as Arnold or Sean Connery or Pierce Brosnan, which I did, and then I did that one, but then because it was like his top 10 or top whatever watch brands, I think that Arnold had worn over the years in movies. So I was like, I wrote a limerick per one, just as a bit. I was like, here's some added value. Use it if you want. And then when I listen back to it, it's really funny. Like it's like stupid limericks because one of the jokes that he'd written into the script was that Arnold's next venture was going to be poetry, and which now whenever I sort of think of Arnold's voice, I think of because he got him to say sitting up high like a bird who sits up there dropping a turd or whatever. And it was turd.
Turd,
my favorite turd. Yeah, used to be ferret, now it's turd. But that was my favorite thing to say, and so that's quite funny. But the thing is, if you add a sort of phone filter over the top of it hides a multitude of sins with impressions. Like my Sean Connery one, I just do old Sean Connery now. I don't really do young James Bond Sean Connery. I tend to do, and
that's good though, because everybody does young Sean. It's better to do old Sean Connery.
I reckon. Yeah, but everyone just goes, yeah, hello, I'm Sean. Well, they don't even do that.
I mean, that was still quite good.
That was
still pretty good.
Yeah. I like old cantankerous because it's funnier, like, surely. Yeah.
No, it is. It's way funnier when it's cantankerous old man, and particularly knowing that he just fucked off movies and stuff. It plays into our sort of concept of Sean Connery, I think. Which is what makes old Sean Connery funnier than vanilla Sean Connery, at least.
It's that moment when he lost his hair and he suddenly aged before our eyes on chat shows, and people would ask him these silly, innocuous questions, and he would just sort of go, well, no comment. It was just like, shut up, you. Terry Wogan's like asking him about, I don't know, being nice to women or something.
Well, he's being nice to women. He is someone that I just got the impression that very much that he got fed up of acting and just wanted to be rich. Well, and he was rich, but nobody was leaving him alone to the business of being rich. He could just get on with being rich. People expected him to be famous and stuff. It's like, I like scotch and private islands. What was that? It's a shit impression. But you know what I
mean. He doesn't live on a private island. He lives in Lyford Key in Nassau. Well,
I thought he owned an island. That's what I...
No. He lives... Lyford Key is it's a gated community in the Bahamas on New Providence Island, which is where Nassau is. Nassau is not an island. Nassau is the capital town of the Bahamas. But he lives in Lyford Key, and I heard him on the phone when I was there doing a play. Our producer was on the phone to him at one point because she was trying to get money out of him, which was daft. That's like trying to get blood out of his.
He was trying to get money out of Sean Connery.
Yeah, she wanted him to put some money into the play. And he was like, all I heard him, he kept saying, yeah, hello, Kim. Yes, yeah, I'm not in the best of health right now. And she, because she's a bit of a dragon, she was like, sure, I don't know, you can still write, can't you? You can still write a check.
Fucking Jesus Christ.
She was like going at him. Yeah. Well, I think she knew him quite well because she knows all the kind of, there's a lot of Broadway producers and stuff who live there. Like I met one of them for lunch, which if I wanted to be in Broadway would have been great, but I don't, and so I probably wasted that opportunity. But anyway, because I don't want to sing.
Why not?
I'm not.
I like
because, that. Right. Well, I want to sing the musical, the brief 2-second musical is probably not
With
going
just one song. It's I Want to Sing, the musical with the song I Want to Sing by Duncan Casey.
by Hugh Jackman. Starring Hugh Jackman, and it's just Hugh Jackman standing behind me as I go, I want to sing, and then that's it.
He just points at you with one of those foam hands with your name on
it. But with claws coming out of it, because Wolverine.
Mike, yes. Mike Garside says, Sean likes to go around Legoland and go for a lovely lamb lunch.
Yeah. I disagree. I think...
I disagree. Minus the power pack.
No, I disagree. I think he would like, what's he saying? A bottle of scotch. It's like, I disagree. Bye.
Bye.
Right.
Oh, fuck. Wow. Oh, shit. We got 119 people. And five in Twitch. Untold viewers in Periscope, by which I mean probably no viewers in Periscope. I don't even bother having that window open. Seems like a waste of time. Looks like our counter started to work again. That was a drama. The YouTube counter stopped working.
Okay.
Which was rubbish. It's time for the film, though.
The film.
Should we just...
Freddy versus Jason.
I accidentally spilled my water over the floor like a big pash. So I need to fill my water back up. And then we'll go. But Freddy vs. Jason is on UK Netflix, so if you're in the UK, you can watch it on Netflix, which is handy dandy, as we'll be doing. So I'm gonna put my mask on whilst I fill up my water.
Okay. Captain Meets Avengers says Duncan wants to talk poo on YouTube instead of Broadway. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I've always been a bit of like a. I had an agent who used to send me for a lot of musicals, and well, for a while I think, because she thought, oh, well, you play guitar, you sing, you play drums, you're an actor in musicals, and I was like, well, yeah, but it's not the same as musical theatre. So I did go to a few, but I went to like, is it Backbeat, the Beatles musical? What's that one called? Ellie would know. Anyway, I auditioned for that, but quite honestly, it wasn't for me. And you sort of see a lot of musical theatre people in the room, and you kind of go, they want it. I mean, I always felt like I was taking someone's space who should have been there. So, but there you are. But then I bumped into an old friend of mine who maybe you sure Matt Cardle was his name. He won the X Factor back in 2010. Anyway.
How do you know him? I remember you saying that you know.
Through some mutual friends. I mean, I used to hang around with them, and he was a friend of theirs, and I knew him long before the X Factor. I mean, I've known him since late 90s, I think, or early 2000s. Anyway, bumped into him at a mutual friend's wedding, and he told me that he had, because I'd seen bus stop posters of him in like Memphis, in the West End, and I was like, all right, okay, because I hadn't seen, and I thought, here we go. And then I hadn't seen him in so long, and then he came running up to me and gave me a big hug at my friend's wedding and said, he was like, oh, I loved you watched a film of mine or something. He said, oh, you're really great. I was like, thanks, man. And then he was like, I just dick around in auditions, like to the point where Andrew Lloyd Webber got up and walked out, and I was like, oh, right, okay. I was like, so you pissed off Andrew Lloyd Webber? And it kind of really rammed it home to me that I was like, I shouldn't, like, he can do what he wants, and he ended up in a musical anyway. And he's with United, who are a huge agent. But I just said, I was like, do you know what? I realized that if I don't want to do a thing, like if I don't really want to do musicals, then I should get out of the way, because there are people who do want to do that, for whom it's their life, and like for me, film is what I love to do. So the thought that someone was there, but they weren't really there, they didn't really want to be there.
You're just taking someone's spot, kind of.
Yeah, and it's not right. So I was like, I kind of said to my agent at the time, I was like, I've got to stop. Please don't set me up for any more musicals. And yeah, which is so there you go. But yeah.
Stop it.
Just stop it.
Just stop it. Well, shall we get ready to watch the film?
Let's do that. My wife and I watched this a while ago out of morbid curiosity.
Oh, I completely unironically really like this film. I think it's great. I've got my reasons and everything. But I went and saw this in the cinema when it came out and stuff, and yeah, I'm a fan. I likes it. I have my reasons.
And that's how it matters.
That's how it matters. Just gonna quickly update the thumbnail for this video. whilst we're on air, because I always forget. Trying to attract in wayward travellers who go like, "Oh, this exciting channel's doing a watch party," and they go, "This is the best thing I've ever seen. Why am I here?" And we go, too late, too late, suckers. You contributed. The algorithm saw you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah, go update the thumbnail. Lovely stuff. So, would you like to count us in? I'll get my my copy ready to press play now.
Why not, indeed? Let's do that. I can't think of a voice to do it in. Let's go with old Sean Connery. Hello. I'm only borrowing your Humvee. Right.
Yeah, because mad old bloke is funnier. He just is.
Yes. The best is the Rock outtakes where he gets in the elevator. That's obviously like a bit of set with the, the hair stylist, and he's trying to make the thing close because he's in a hush. It won't shut, and he goes, "Close, you cunt." That's the funny. Anyway,
that's what you need.
That's what you need. Right, here we go then. Counting down from 7 because 007, for fuck's sake. Never been able to shake that one. 7, fucking 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Go. I went Alan at the end.
Oh, Frederick versus Jason. I find it really
funny.
No, it's Jasonovich. Everyone knows that. Yeah, right. I found it quite funny at the time when this was coming out. Like, because it's one of these things they talked about Reggie. So it's teased in Friday Part 9. Like Freddy's claw kind of drags Jason's mask to hell at the end and stuff. The Freddy's claw being played by Kane Hodder rather than Robert England. When it was actually being made, people were talking about it, and when it came out, the more kind of like the slightly snootier critics were talking about it like it cheapened everything, and it's like, what really cheapened Freddy and Jason? Seriously, okay, what? Are you worried it's going to make Aldi seem cheap or Poundland? Like, get out of here! Like, because they became mad, insanely tacky anyway, and it was part of the fun. Pretending it was like somehow ruining high art was just like, come on.
Well, there's a what was this, 2003?
2003.
So there was this mad thing, like that was the whole, like, through the 90s, the idea of something versus something else was this sort of tacky, hand waved idea. Like Sigourney Weaver had famously laughed off the idea of an Alien versus Predator film, all that kind of stuff. So it always felt, I think people thought it was like you were jumping the shark or you were clutching at straws, trying to cross over things,
Yeah, sure. And I think that comes back from, that goes back to the days of Abbott and Costello meets the Wolfman and all that stuff. I think because that was always seen as being quite cheap, and they tend to, like they'd meet Dracula and they'd wheel out a kind of haggard, morphine addicted Bela Lugosi or whatever to come and do whatever. So I think it kind of stretches back to that.
Yeah. But I've never really found, like, I've seen, not really seen that many of these films. I don't think I've seen the first Nightmare on Elm Street. That is it. I've seen Friday the 13th Part 1. I've seen some of Jason X, and I've seen this.
Right. Okay.
And I've seen the remake. Right.
Well, the remake of Nightmare or the remake of Jason?
Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not the person best qualified to talk about it, but like this film, I just thought was a bit of a straight up parody, really. I
think that's why it's fun. No, it's not scary at all. I think it's why it's fun. I think everyone making it's having a good time. I think it's quite funny. I think it's really tacky, but definitely on purpose. Like, it completely knows what it's doing. It's quite tongue in cheek, and it goes out of its way to deliver on all the gore and stuff. And it does. I think what it does really nicely, I think, is it uses the musical cues from Boobies, of course. This is classic because, like, she's got massively fake tits and she's supposed to be a teenager, I guess. And it's like, rush out and get your boob implant, whatever. It very nicely fuses the styles of the two films, I think, and the mythologies, because there's no reason they shouldn't fit together. They make as much sense as each other. Because Jason was just kind of a normal person, but he was like he had like birth defects and stuff. Then he was bullied and
It
they killed
means
him.
his dick had fallen
His
off,
dick. Where's your dick,
but his
Jason?
and where's his duck? But his balls were there still. I
Wait,
remember.
they take quite a good left turn halfway through the Friday franchise by turning him into a zombie. It's just like, okay. Whereas like at least Freddy was always a supernatural thing.
Yeah.
And I think the Freddy films are a bit more interesting. Like Wes Craven's New Nightmare is a legitimately really interesting film. That's the crazy meta one, that's kind of set in the real world and stuff.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen that, of course.
That's a cool
Sorry, I
movie.
forgot that.
That's
a
well,
really good movie.
because it's kind of it simultaneously technically is and isn't a Freddy movie, because it's not really about Freddy, but it's sort of completely about Freddy at the same time because it's set outside of the kind of universe of the Freddy films.
It's a sort of fourth wall breaker, but I remember that was kind of the precursor to Scream, wasn't it? Which I never found a good. Yeah,
I've never got the fuss with. I never got the fuss with Scream. People love Scream, and they're doing yet another Scream film without Wes Craven before he is dead. Yeah, bless him. He died a few years ago. I never got the fascination with Scream, and I think a big part of Freddy looks cool. Freddy's like a cool design. It's a very persuasive performance by England as well. It's quite so controversially here. Actor called Kane Hodder had done Jason for quite some time, and they basically snubbed him for this and got someone else called Ken Kurtzinger in to do it instead, owing to his height difference to Robert Englund, because he's quite a bit taller. Something that I feel for Kane Hodder. We spoke to him for Icon, like clearly it really pissed him off. And I don't blame him because he wasn't always Jason, but he had really made that role his own and was like kind of loved by the fans and stuff. And then it was just kind of like, yeah, nah, mate, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those annoying things like that people don't really get. It's the same thing with the Predator and stuff. Although with them, I guess their hand was forced because Kevin Peter Hall died, didn't he? But it was that thing of you can't just put a tall person in a costume and it will work. There is performance there.
Well, Friday 2, they tried to. Elm Street 2, they replaced Robert Englund with a stunt performer because they wanted to do that. They're just like, fuck it, anyone can be Freddy. And then they ended up having to go like, oh shit, no, wait, that doesn't work. Because Kane Hodder's Jason has a very clear physicality and stuff. Like you can tell it's him, and they motion captured him for the Friday video game as well.
Okay.
So it's which is nice because he came back to do that. This film also stinks so hard of 2003. It's unreal. Like when we get into the haircuts and the music, it's all kind of new metal-y and stuff. And then like there's a bunch of teens going to a rager and doing what Americans think a rave is like, where they drink Everclear or whatever. But
a
kegger. The makeup's great. The Freddy makeup's really, really good. Because there's been a few different versions and stuff. And
this is just one of those, like, I mean, like you say, the idea that any of this was sort of high art, even the original, I mean, it's like even something like Halloween was never, it's sort of got this insane reverence. And that's the thing when I watched the 2018 Halloween, it was like, I don't think it didn't go too far into that territory, but it did have this sort of insane sense of portentousness about
massively,
the material.
yeah. I think because it's essentially something that was brought to life by fans of Halloween that are now in high places. It's kind of it's just Tret with this sort of like really highfalutin. It's kind of like it's about Stabby Man doing stabbing. Like let's all have a good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so I've always found in terms of like. I always found the Jason films. What I always liked about the Jason films versus, say, the Halloween films. So I do like the Halloween films, but the Friday films knew when it was time to get silly, and like that transition to sort of camp didn't feel particularly jarring to me. Whereas like Halloween always had fucking ideas about itself, and it's been rebooted like 3 times now because I think Halloween H20 was also knocking things back to a certain point in the continuity, and then there was the remake, and then the new Halloween took that out of continuity as well. Yeah. Whereas the Jason films,
never got that like H2O thing of like, I was like, what's it got to do with water? And then it was like, no.
It is a weird thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it does have that obvious double meaning, and it's like, and the thing is with Jason, they do like to do the thing of Jason being afraid of water, so it's like, yeah, okay. But like with Halloween H2O/H20, it's just like, I see what you're doing, but I also don't. So can you not?
Yeah.
That would be Griad. Um, this is fun. Most of the Jason films are fun. I really like Jason X. Like Jason X totally knows what it's doing. Jason X is having a laugh. Jason X, the trope of things being set in space when they run out of ideas. We talked about Hellraiser last time, which wasn't technically set in space, but they did like critters in space. So they just went, fuck it, let's do Jason in space, and did it, and it was fun, and it was cheap and fun and silly. Like David Cronenberg's in it in a cameo, which cracks me up. So yeah, I really like Jason X as well. The kind of latter day Jason. Jason 9 is good. That's the kind of crazy he possesses people's bodies one because the coroner wanted to eat a bit of his heart. And quite often explain it. What I like, again, I've said this about something else, I can't remember what, but what I like about the Friday films is like if you had to explain them in one sentence to everybody, it does sound like you've got a head injury or you're making it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you just did an Alan Partridge gulp there.
Oh. Yeah, sorry.
Oh. That's what Peter Weller in Robocop 2, when he's doing the voiceover for that Muppet, Robocop's all smashed up. He's like,
yeah.
Robocop's kind of cum noises.
My dad has sent us £10. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you, Philip.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, Christ. You set me off. It's the Sleepy Time stream on Val Verde Broadcasting.
I know.
I'm tired. I know. You got a screamy baby. I did have to check something. I did one of those things where I was kind of like, have I falsely remembered this? Because I remember getting my A-level results and then going to see this in the evening of that day. And then there's at that point in my life, one of my friend's parents were constantly going away on long business trips. So there was those summers, there was constantly some form of house party at that house. So I remember getting my A-level results. That went really well. Went to see this, and then we went round his parents' house and just stayed up all night till fucking 10 the next morning or whatever. And I was like, no, I can't just say that as a story. I need to fact check myself. And it turns out, yeah, A-level results day did sync with the release of Freddy vs. Jason. So there you go. That is a true thing that happened. My increasingly addled memory is kind of had my back on that one. So if I found anything out. Sorry.
No. I have a recollection of seeing like posters for this at the cinema that I used to go to in Norwich when I was at when I was at uni, but it would have preceded that because I didn't go to uni. When did I? Oh no, it would have done. Sorry, I went to uni I graduated uni in 2005. I started in 2002.
There you go.
That's the old bastard. That makes sense, right? Okay, yeah. So this was the year of like X-Men 2, I think, stuff like that.
I went late because I worked for a year, and I had like a 2-year gap actually, including a year of work, which was really fun. Mark Flanagan gives 5 of those us. Thank you, Rich. Where do you draw the line between estimable and trash in low rent horror? If it isn't for you, what would be? I mean, Freddy vs. Jason is very much for me. And when I say trash, I usually say trash in a respectful way. I like trash. I sort of think something that's not afraid to usually something that's not afraid to be silly, that's not afraid to be kind of gory or bloody, or not focus too much on the kind of high art and just have a good time is what I'd say.
Cashback.
Or something that's just bad. Some things are just bad sometimes. That's my kind of view of trash. Something like, Jesus Christ, I watched The Babadook. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Fuck me. Jesus Christ. That's like, it was like, oh, let's sling that on. Don't know what that's about. Heard it's great. And then Ivan and I watched it more or less in silence. And the other thing that I mainly remember watching in silence was that, because we don't watch much in complete silence, the last time we watched in absolute stone cold silence was the Jimmy Savile documentary by Louis Theroux, the second part, which was just watched in kind of complete stunned silence. And the Babadook was just kind of like, yeah, this is borderline upsetting. This is like really, because that's really kind of, that's more of your kind of, that's a kind of art housey horror thing, and it's doing lots of kind of, your classic stuff. It references like Italian horror and German horror and stuff, and it's very kind of a bit sort of Hitchcocky in a way, but obviously very kind of psychological and a bit like kind of Fritz Lang and everything, and that's all very high-minded and stuff. But sometimes I like to see someone being turned backwards in a fold-up bed. So
fair enough.
Yeah, there are different different strokes for different folks, I guess. Oh yeah, we're just out the foldy uppy bed scene, by the way. Guess getting that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's great because they sell the boyfriend as he's that gag is great, and the legs flop around when he goes up. So nice. They sell the boyfriend as such a cunt as well, and that's what I like. This film gets it because it's kind of like, let's set him up as a cunt so you can cheer him on, but you can cheer Jason on when he dies, because the film's just like, it's a film about villains, but Jason is kind of he's the manipulated one. He's kind of Freddy's victim as well. So it's like, even though he's done that horrible thing, it's like, yeah, but at least he did it to a cunt. It's kind of like the weird morality of fucking the weird morality of horror films and slashers in particular. The slashers are very, very written about. Like, film studies types fucking adore Texas Chainsaw, us including our very own Toby. Adore Texas Chainsaw, which I appreciate, but I've never really liked as much as I'm apparently supposed to.
Just very quickly, sorry, Kevin James, who has just sent us a super chat, $5. I was waiting to get a word in there because he also sent us $7.50 on PayPal, asking the same question. So I feel a bit bad now. But he really wants to know, having just watched 2005's Cursed for the first time, I'm excited to listen to some Freddy K. Craven bantering. I'm not sure what that means. But he also then adds in a super chat $5. After 90% was shot, Dimension decided Craven needed to reshoot it 4 times. Thoughts on Cursed? Don't say thoughts.
You're allowed to say thoughts on. It's when people just say thoughts with a question mark that annoys you.
I suppose. Well,
you're allowed to say thoughts.
It's borderline.
Especially when they give us money, Duncan.
Okay, fine. No, thank you, Kevin. Sorry, I haven't seen Cursed to add to the yet further disappointment and incredulation.
And I hate to say that I also have not seen Cursed, so I feel kind of guilty.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah,
I feel bad.
Ask us something else. Ask us something else.
Ask us something else without paying. And
oh God, don't give more money. Jesus Christ, no. Just ask us
$10 this time and ask a proper question. No, I'm joking. Please chuck in another question. Anything else you want to know? Anything else within reason, obviously.
I'm not answering that.
I'm not describing. What was that thing in Host House? It was like he's reading out like people's comments on Twitter, and the guy talks about riding bareback across the web, and it's just like as he goes on, it just gets more. What is that? So the horse's neck presses against my perineum. No, I'm not reading that.
I'm not reading that.
I'm not reading that. So funny, honestly, guys. Do yourselves a favour and go listen to Host House if you haven't already. So good.
Yeah,
if you're an Alan Partridge fan, if you're not, you obviously don't waste the time.
Don't waste your time. See all this stuff here. That's quite cool. The kid's posters turning around and looking at her. It's a groovy little gag, and it very, very much plays into what. So here we go. We've had two great. The opening scene of folding up the guy in the outlandish kill and the gag is very much classic Jason. And then the wacky, freaky dream sequence, it's very much Freddy. And it knits the two styles together. And you know what as well? They actually have a fight at the end, which is really important. And it actually has a winner. I know Freddy's head winks at the camera at the end, but like he's had his fucking head cut off. Like they were going to they wanted to do another one, but they didn't. But like they weren't just going to go, no more Freddy. These are both franchises that had already promised to end at least once. They weren't going to just kill off one of them and then,
Yeah. I know. Well, the thing is, at that point, it was like, does it matter? I mean, they'll be back.
Well, exactly, yeah, and it has as far as I'm concerned, it has a winner. Yeah, Freddy's head winks at the end, but Jason won this round, and that's what I found satisfying about it. So there's actually a fucking fight and like an obvious winner for the time being, and like they're literally hacking bits off each other at the end. It's fucking brilliant. I won't hear anything else.
Fair enough. Because wasn't there supposed to be like they were going to inject Pinhead or Michael?
Yeah, so there was supposed to be because it's all about bloody it's all about who owns what, isn't it? But they were going to end up in hell and end up in a boxing ring, and then supposedly Pinhead was going to turn up and say, like, gentlemen, what seems to be the problem? Which is
I'll tell you what seems to be the problem. Pinhead is
Can I call you Pen?
Can I call you Pen? is that you appear to have a boxing ring, but nothing's on. So we thought we'd
give me some shorts at least.
Can you say let's get ready to rumble?
Fucking the pinhead saying let's get ready to rumble. See, there's more of an argument there for things being cheapened, but ultimately Hellraiser,
I find that the thing with Hellraiser is I suppose that the kind of the material is kind of highfalutin.
Yeah, indeed.
It's artistically highfalutin, but it's not. But the execution of the film isn't particularly.
In its execution, like initially, in its inception, I should say, it's got more of a kind of art house feel to it. And, Clive Barker used to do like experimental films and stuff. We watched some of it must have been in film studies, but we watched some of Clive Barker's like experimental stuff, and the one's like a sort of a negative image.
It's on the DVD, I think.
Oh, is it of the willy flapping around?
Yeah, there's an old man with a beard or something, and his Johnson flaps about, and it's called Salome, something like that.
Well, as our own Duncan Rule once pointed out during the Rat's Night of Terror review, there's a difference between like a cock and a willy. Like a willy's a floppy thing, like it's a completely different terminology. That's a willy as far as science is concerned.
Right. Couple of super chats. Sam Montgomery sent £5. He says, as a student currently rich, I can confirm that lecturers love Texas Chainsaw. Also, favorite Jason film, Rich? Question mark. I haven't mastered the upward inflection. I'm a fan of Jason Lives personally.
Jason Lives. People hate Jason Lives because what I love about the Jason films as well, there are certain points where certain groups of the fandom started hating them. And I think I really, really love Jason X. But I really like Part 9 because it just kind of goes off the reservation a bit. In terms of the earlier ones, well, okay, but we talked about Part 8 before, like Takes Manhattan. Like, it's not as cool as you think it's going to be because it was shot in Toronto and like 90% of it's on a boat. And then Jason's in Manhattan for about 5 minutes. And that bit's really cool. But the rest is just like, fucking hell, this is interminable. Though it has lots of Albany killings. Has lots of killings in it. Albany killings. So that's good. That's a good thing. The original, you got to love the original Friday, really, haven't you? Like Friday 1. Particularly because when it turns out Jason's not in it at all. And then,
I was going to say it's not really a Jason film, is it?
Yeah. Technically, it's a Pamela film.
Kevin J. James followed up. He said it's truly awful, but the BTS drama has some academic merit.
That's good. I mean, those things are. That's the kind of thing where somebody needs to go do a documentary. You know.
Okay, so it took years to finish, and Craven openly decried feeling abused by the process.
Did he craven?
Hate to bring you up on your grammar there again, Kevin. But if he decried feeling abused by the process,
you've just turned into Alan Partridge. Alan Partridge. Don't listen to him, Kevin.
Duncan has tuned out, and
Duncan has clearly had a really shit few days. Everybody,
I'm so sorry. No,
everyone understands. Don't worry.
Soda drinking corridor janitor send $4.99. Says no message as such, just support for the channel. That's not a question mark at all. That's a thumbs up. Thank you.
Well, there you go.
It's easier to be Alan sometimes, I think. But I need to stop it because it is a problem.
I've got to admit, I've got a problem.
From my loved ones.
The YouTube live streaming module has started doing this slightly terrifying thing where it just says we've got 0 viewers. It did it on Saturday night, but it didn't seem to be the case, which is slightly terrifying.
We're saying we've got 130 on the.
That's the thing. On the actual thing, it tells you how many views you got. In the kind of live stream module, it just dips down to 0 sometimes. I think it's a glitch. It did it on Saturday night, and it was like we were actively talking to people. So it was like, well, no. But it's just terrifying when you're sat there. It's sort of like your car going, I have no petrol, when you're driving along. When you do have petrol. That's what I think a computerized car sounds like, so I don't drive.
Kevin J. James, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that he gets a question in, but he says, if you're looking for a replacement question, do you find the weird fake Jack Black / Jason Mewes casting distracting?
Yes, very much so.
Oh, you know what he means. What does he
Absolutely,
mean by
yeah. So a character turns up in this in a bit,
that?
and you remember Jay from Jay and Silent Bob from Kevin
Yeah, I
Smith
know
films?
Jason Mewes. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Like me and my friends used to jokingly spoonerize it to Mason Jews because it's the laziest swap around name, because he's exactly Jason Mewes, and because around this time the Kevin Smith stuff really hit the mainstream a few years before with Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back and stuff, and when he turns up, it's just like, dude, wow, really? Really? You're doing that? And it's like, haha, I smoke weed, fellow kids. And it's like, okay.
Snoochin' Boochins or whatever.
Snoochin' Boochins. My friend, Silent Robert.
I am not Silent Robert. I am Audible Clyde.
Quiet Audible Clive. I was going to say Quiet Roland.
Boisterous Brian.
I'm loving the wish.com Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that was the thing. I didn't. Some of those the View Askew films, like I liked Dogma. I liked Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, but not in any like serious way. Like, I mean, it was kind of like me and my, there was a very clear period of my life where I watched those, and it wasn't when they came out. It was probably around like 2007 or something like that. And because my friend,
man, if you came to it that late as well, I can't imagine it having the hugest amount of appeal.
No, I mean, I was sort of in my early 20s, I guess, early mid 20s, and I wasn't a stoner, which didn't help. So I was like, it's all right. I mean, it was always fun, but it was always kind of like, okay, it's bawdy humor thing. I don't think the filmmaking on display. It's like when you get something like Red State, and that was supposed to be Kevin Smith's kind of almost borderline Tarantino stab at being kind of arty, and it's just it's all right.
He's not. He said himself. Well, yeah. For my part, basically, I watched those in the 90s and then in the 2000s. So when I was a stoner fucking teenager, I thought they were the best thing in the world, and then they slowly lost their appeal to me over time. To be honest, they kind of appealed less and less and less. But I watched the most recent one, the reboot. It said Jess Above reboot, and it was fucking awful.
Really?
But more power to him. Kevin, he nearly died recently, and he does all right. So more power to him. Whatever.
No, I mean, it's nothing against him at all as a person, and
sure.
And even as a filmmaker, like the guy, look, the dude makes things. He's very, very good at adapting and making stuff. Like he's one of those people who like seemed to get his feet under the table in a big bad way in Hollywood for a time there in the 90s, and it's like, good on him. Like he's got great ideas, and I think he's just someone who swings for the fences a lot. And like I don't think he's a sort of, I guess he's an auteur in that he's like he writes it, makes it, edits it, does it all.
Well, he even started exhibiting his own shit. He was doing road shows and stuff. I mean, because he plays to a very he works on small budgets and plays to a very dedicated base, and good for him.
Yeah, I mean that's dude. I mean, shit, nothing wrong with that at all.
Because he went in through Miramax, and he was essentially courted by the Weinsteins. And he himself, I think, he was frustrated in that the Weinsteins had success with Tarantino, and they were in the business of winning Oscars and bringing up auteur directors. And he didn't view himself as a director. He was someone who had funny stories and wanted to tell them. So when he made Clerks, it was just the only way he could tell his funny stories in that. That was his format. And he didn't really want to be a director; he wanted to be a writer, which is why he got attached to Superman and all that stuff. But the Weinsteins wanted to manufacture another auteur director, so he ended up being a director. And it is quite funny in that the people who kind of made Tarantino famous then ended up bringing up this. Frankly, Kevin Smith shares a lot with us in terms of we talk about poo and wee and farts and sex and willies and fannies a lot, and that's what he does. And when you hear him now, he still talks about farts and stuff, and he's like, "I'm 50 and I'm still doing it," and it's kind of like, yeah, that's what we do. That's the connection between us and him, I think.
Because he got a pretty big podcast empire on the go right out the gate, didn't he? Before a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, like he was really very ahead of the game on that, wasn't he? Like he was he got set up in his house and stuff, and was all those different shows, and now you see those shows and they've got mad production value because people love them. And those spoken word, because I remember when those spoken word tours of his came out, he's a really funny speaker. Like he's really funny, and he's the one who did all the Tim Burton what's the guy's name, John Peters stories and things. A really funny guy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, yeah. No, I mean, dude, he's someone making movies. You can't really argue with that. I think that's one of those, and as well, he's making, like you said, he's making the movies he wants to make. And if it doesn't mean they have to land with everyone. That's not the point. But he's not, I mean, by all accounts, he's not making films that lose anyone money or
Well,
anything
that's
like
what they
that.
cost fuck all. I watched his fucking Yoga Hoses film as well. Jesus Christ, it was awful. It's just so like embarrassingly bad. But it's like, you
Um,
know what? The people you made this for fucking love it. So it's not what I went out of my way to watch it. That's on me. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like it's not like
yeah,
I
yeah.
paid to go. If I'd paid to go sit in the cinema, like then that'd be perhaps a bit different.
Fair enough.
We interviewed Monica Keena, who plays the main character here, for Icon,
All right.
and she's really small. She's tiny.
Oh, yeah.
That's
She
my
doesn't
overriding memory.
look terribly big there on the gurney. It could be a veterinary gurney.
It's
For,
for a dog or a small animal.
Fair enough. Has she done much else?
She's done a bit, yeah. I mean, it seems that she was earmarked for a bigger career, but things perhaps didn't go her way. So she's done a fair bit of stuff.
Oh.
She was in like a remake of Demons, stuff like that. So it's yeah, she did a bit. She did a bit. This is kind of this is great because it's when Freddy flicks her nose off and it's a rubbish bit of CGI, but I love it. It's brilliant. It's very like Freddy's all about the thematic deaths, and again, good thematic monkey paw deaths for people. Whereas Jason is kind of like, okay, can I twist someone in half inside a giant milkshake blender or whatever stupid shit, like whatever stupid dumb shit. Mark Garside says, Jay and Bob reboot took me 4 times to get through. He smoked way too much weed. Yeah, it's. I tell you what, Kevin Smith stuff has kind of become like late era Simpsons, where it's like the joke is, ha ha, Homer eats donuts, and it's like is that your joke? It's kind of like, ha ha, Lisa's clever. Ha ha,
Yeah.
Maggie's a baby. Like that, the
Right.
Simpsons are going to Belgium. That kind of shit.
Yeah. Waffles. But waffles are different to American waffles. That was amazing.
Dad, you can't eat all that mayonnaise. I'm eating mayonnaise on a donut because I like donuts. Maggie's a baby in Belgium. That's
Yeah.
season 39 Simpsons writing.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, look, a
Yeah.
microfilm.
Is it microfiche?
In microfiche. The lad, the dark haired lad, he's John Ritter's son. Remember John Ritter?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's John Ritter's son, that guy. See, this
Fair
stuff
enough.
is really good. Like this stuff is there's good. They weave the kind of lore together really well. I think better than they really deserve to. Like it's really nicely done. So they've been everybody who knows about Freddy. Freddy's power is in being remembered. So they've invented a drug that suppresses dreams, and anyone who might remember or be tangential to Freddy has to be locked up and suppressed with drugs. So they've invented a no dreamy drug, and then Freddy is using. He's tricking Jason into becoming a copy. He's only got enough power to trick Jason into becoming a copycat, so people start to remember Freddy again. That's cool. That's quite a neat. It's very neatly kind of assembled as a plot, which I like. Directed by Ronnie Yu, off the back of because there was success with him, kind of reviving Chucky with Bride of Chucky, in the late 90s, and they did 51st State. Do you remember with Robert Carlyle and
Yeah.
Sam Jackson?
Samuel L.
Yeah, and that was the film he did immediately before this. He had a lot of success in Taiwan. I think he's from Taiwan. I don't want to get that wrong because that's a shit thing to get wrong. But yeah, I think he's a really good choice for this because I think 51st State's kind of ropey, but like Bride of Chucky is genuinely quite funny and it's a good horror revival. And this essentially was a way to revive both franchises, so they brought him in. And it has this kind of look because I seem to remember there being a lot of blue in his other movies. Maybe I'm full of shit, but DOP on this film is a guy called Fred Murphy. He did a lot of stuff, but lots of TV and things like that. Real kind of journeyman, director of photography. But this marries the thing it does a lot is, Jason is blue, Freddy is red. So they do that. So you got the black light scene and stuff, but they do Freddy's dream, kind of the classic, Freddy dream boiler room stuff is usually quite rusty and red, and they go full on red and blue for this, for the different scenes and stuff. And I think they actually marry the lighting schemes with cuts in certain bits when the two worlds start to blend and stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's quite clever. That's more than you'd expect for this. I think it's doing good stuff. I've got a lot of love for it.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's fair enough. It punches above its weight, I think, because it could so easily. I mean, I do think it is quite trashy, to be honest.
Oh, dude, yeah, but I do think it knows it's trashy. I think importantly that it's self-aware trashy, because it couldn't be anything else. It's a fuck. And again, it was the kind of snooty kind of like, no, some stupid film and rubbish, and it's like, yeah, I know. That's why I went to watch it. It's a Freddy versus Jason film. Like, what do you want?
It's all stupid bullshit. Like, come on, like, what are you talking about? Floyd Dillon says, do you think Kevin Smith burnt his bridges when he slated people like Bruce Willis and the guys at Warner's during his Superman stint? I thought about that, but do you know what? I just kind of think, in a way, I think all that time kind of showed him that he didn't want to work in. Like when he talks about Harvey Weinstein and stuff now, obviously in the light of Me Too and everything, he's is what it is. But I think it seemed to me that he lost a lot of, like, having experienced it, lost a lot of love for the Hollywood system. Like I think once he realized the politics of it all, it was like, the Superman thing was probably his first big awakening into just how the chimps were running the asylum. you know what I mean, like with fucking.
Well, and it was something that it would seem he never wanted for himself anyway. So he ended up, because like I think what was good for him really was doing those kind of, because those talking tours were essentially stand-up comedy, weren't they? Kind of couched as something else.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him, because I would find we did that kind of once, and we did it to a receptive crowd. I would not have the fucking balls to just rock out and go like, I've got a comedy show, because you do it to people who don't know who you are. They, it could be like the most soul-destroying thing, which I know is something like comedians have to go through. But him, who isn't one, he's not going to start hitting the stand-up clubs, is he? He's got a massive fan base and he's a funny guy, so he could just go out and do that. So I don't know. I used to love his films when I was younger, but I kind of can't watch them anymore. Even the older ones, I find them just hard going.
Oh, I just saw I saw Poundland, J Muse.
Yeah, there you go. And the other guy, the kind of Jack Blackish guy, who I think is a bit like Bobby Moynihan from Saturday Night Live.
That other guy's like fucking Miles Teller.
He really is, isn't he? Yeah, there's lots of Poundland versions of people in this. Just while we're here, just for the official records, if anyone's taking notes, Kelly Rowlands is the sexiest Destiny's Child. Easy, way more than Beyonce. Beyonce's overrated. Kelly Rowlands where it's at, and that's my election pledge. Something.
Yeah. Kelly Rowlands is the best Destiny's Child.
The thing is, he's probably said something like that, hasn't he? Beyond his parody, he's probably.
If he said that, I would vote for him if I was American, which I'm not.
Finally, something I can agree with him on. Finally, something Trump and I agree on. Something that Duncan made up.
Justine Hakes.
You've been on his. Been on his show.
I have, but I'm going to say Jocelyn Hatstand says, sorry, Hakestad, I should say. Justin, yes, Justine. He says tip jar, more like just the tip jar.
Hey,
hi, from Norway.
Hey man, good to hear from you.
Yeah, man.
Mark Flanagan's got a question for you in the Zipper chat, so I'll read it. For the question is for you.
Very good.
Duncan, I just want to do it in a funny voice. Does it matter if a director cannot speak English well? The younger actors here needed attention, but you may not have judged their work well. It's dramatic reading of this question. So, do you think is it necessary for a director to speak the language speak in the language of where they're working? Because like John Woo reportedly didn't speak any English when he did Face Off or Hard Target. It seems. You got any thoughts on that?
Yeah. What was it? The younger actors here need attention, but you may not have judged.
Yeah, that's the name of the director. Is Ronnie Yu.
Oh, sorry.
You're so tired, aren't you? You're so tired, you poor bastard.
No, I'm sorry. That's bad value from Duncan. I mean, yes, frankly, not that that's a. I know that. I mean, there are other ways to communicate, but I mean, I've heard stories. Yeah, where people talk about John Woo. I think Nicolas Cage talked about it when doing Face Off, and he was like, it was really hard because he had to speak to a translator to speak to to John, and he was just like, I just couldn't understand what, but it was just like, a lot of like, I mean, Brad or Mark would back me up on this hopefully, but it's like, it's communication is vital on a, if you as a director have to marshal not only actors but also everyone on set. And it's like, if like when I'm on set, like, and Rich, you'll know this as well, when it's like you got all these moving parts and they all have to go right, and obviously the actor has to get it right on camera, because in a lot of shots it's like you won't have a lot of time to get it. You might have one or two takes to get something, and it's like you have to get it, you have to nail it. There isn't a fallback. And so if you can't communicate that right, but that said, some of my some of like my favorite directors I've worked with have been not English, and not then English wasn't their first language, so, and they didn't speak perfect English. So it's like, it's just about, can you communicate as well? There's that thing of that synergy of whether or not you're the same kind of person. Like my pal Charlie, a German guy, he speaks really good English, but much better than my German, Christ. But he's a rock and roll kind of guy. He's like, I dated Sharon Stone in the 80s. I don't give a shit. And he's like, but he's like that. He's kind of like, fuck it, whatever. Like I remember I've done a few things with him now, because basically I did that Microsoft ad I did ages ago. He directed that, and his whole attitude was like, fuck it, whatever. So he was doing things like, I went through hair and makeup, and I got on set, and he was like, and I just went up and like ruffled my hair up. I was like,
because you were supposed to be knackered, right? You're on a packed commuter train.
I was supposed to be like a commuter or whatever. Yeah, so it was kind of like he just wanted a bit of that element of not everything is perfect kind of thing. It was more interesting to look at, and he's such a great guy, and he's been someone who it's always been, I think for me, and I'm going off on a tangent, I'm sorry, but it's always been a thing for me. There are people who you really click with, and that's one of the things I love about working in the film industry. Is it's like, because everyone who's there, especially when you get to a certain point, I think everyone who's there is there because they love it. So you have this immediate mutual connection with everyone that you're on set with, and then there are people out there who go to bat for you when they really don't need to. I was saying this, my friend Ben, who produced a number of films I've done, but he produced Erica as well. Bless him. He's just had a little girl as well, so we sort of swap notes on babies a lot. But he was, bless him, he's always like, look, here's what I've got coming up. I do, unsolicited, he's just sort of telling me what's kind of down the pipeline, and he's like, dude, I'm looking out for you. I'm trying to get you involved. And it's like, you don't have to do that. You can, loads of big actors and stuff. Like, you don't need me for it. It's like when people want to help you out, it's in an industry like this, it's a really, really special thing. So I kind of yeah, man, I do think I do think language barriers, like, I wouldn't say, like, when someone says do you want to they're offering you this role, the director is Jorn van der Liebengleiber, and he knows 5 words.
Hoyte van der Papenqueef.
Hoyte van der Papenqueef, and he doesn't. He speaks 3 words of English. Obviously, like, no. I mean, you don't. That's you don't. I don't think. But I think there are ways of communicating that aren't just language. But I do think you have to be able to communicate. So, in other words, I've rephrased your question, Mark, gone off on a giant tangent, and probably circuitously come back.
Also, I believe, Ronnie, you speaks and spoke fluent English, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Just for clarity, so maybe, I don't know, maybe the problems elsewhere with that, I don't know. What? Oh, Kevin J. James, I'm work from home and have too much money. Do you think Freddy vs. Jason is more dated than the Nightmare / Friday films? Is 2003's mainstream aesthetic charming? It is really. That is a really quite interesting question, because this is very, very dated to 2003, but then a lot of the Freddy films and Jason films are very, very dated to the 80s. And yeah, it's a question of competing aesthetics. Because this to me is like, Wallet Chain the movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's very much your kind of Smash Mouth, frosted tips, Wallet Chain, skater jeans.
I was say bell bottom jeans, like the
bell bottom jeans, DC trainers,
all ripped.
Avril Lavigne. You know what I mean? It's that good real vibe. So yeah, I don't know, because I don't want to be. I think it's very easy to kind of go, oh, remember the 80s, because we did a whole episode about that. Because kind of the first Friday is kind of timeless because it sort of feels like it exists out of time, particularly because it takes place in a remote location. And that could take place at any time before phones were invented, because it's one of those things where phones would ruin this narrative.
Yeah.
But sorry, Floyd's just saying I really like the scene. This is a really cool scene because, like, firstly, stunts wise, you've got them doing a full body, top half body burn on Jason. Jason traces the fire through the cornfield, and we see that aerial, really nice. The stuff like the setup to him getting put out. You see that little insert of the machete slashing the beer, and it puts him out. The Chekhov's beer barrel was placed there earlier in the scene. It's yet again, Jason does quite an outlandish kill on that guy who is the guy who looks like Billy Joel, the rave rapist, at the start. It's again Jason killing kind of a bad person, and that goes out the window now. Well, a second ago, really. Setting up the rivalry. He kills the guy before Freddy can, which pisses off Freddy, which means Freddy has to be taken away. Blah blah blah. The film all kicks up a gear in this scene. We have the mixture of the blue and the reds. It's nice. It's good stuff. I like it. I just want to go out and buy a wallet chain and some bell-bottom jeans and wear a white t-shirt, a white long sleeve t-shirt under a black t-shirt,
and a beanie in the summer.
Yes, a beanie in the summer. Yes. Oh God. The 2003 aesthetic is very icky, isn't it? It's a very icky aesthetic. Mark Flanagan, $5. How much? Do you want to read that?
Yeah. Sorry, no. I was. Yeah. How much does dated matter? The Mona Lisa and Charles Dickens are dated. Is it? I'm going David Edison here. Not lures. Is it impossible for FVJ to become timeless?
I don't know.
Me, David Edison.
$5 there from David Hedison. I think the thing is, I mean, whether or not something such as classical literature and art is dated is questionable in itself, because the reason we remember them is because they don't date. But I'm not saying you don't have a valid point, because things being of their time doesn't mean that you should then reject them or forget about them, because that would be awful. And hey, there are loads of really cool period aesthetics that we love. So I think if something's dated, attitudes maybe are an issue. I don't know. Or
I think the thing, I mean, it's something like this. It's film is still a relatively young medium with which to sort of talk about that, because when you look at like Mona Lisa and Charles Dickens are of a time period where it was like, it's not like the Mona Lisa came out and they had trailer 1, 2, and 3, and then a TV spot.
The Mona Lisa.
I mean? And then, like,
this summer, a small painting is coming of a woman's face.
Yeah. A surly woman who could be smiling but may not be.
Tepid grin will set the world on fire.
In Louvres only. like it's
coming to a Louvre near you.
So yeah. So it's a very different. And it wasn't. Those sort of things weren't. I mean, I suppose paintings. I do think like things exist. Like once you're generationally, once there isn't, once the living memory has died off of a period, and these things remain as essentially artifacts, and we don't really see like remnants of fashion from I don't even know when the Mona Lisa was painted, but like the 15th century or whatever. I
think 1931 that's painted. That's when Da Vinci was still alive. So
right.
I just reminded of one kid in school when the teacher said when was the height of the Egyptian period, and she said 100 years ago. And it's like, oh, bless her. We were kids, and kids are stupid, so I'm not blaming that kid. But the idea of like the pyramids being built 100 years ago is quite nice. Anyway.
Yeah. Whenever. Anyway, the point is that there isn't anything to like portraits of Henry VIII. It's not like we're sitting there going like ruffles,
dickhead.
Yeah. I mean, but whereas nowadays, like we can, clearly pinpoint things we still wear that were around in the 50s, 60s, whatever. So yeah, I think stuff like this. You look at this, and I think as well, like as a generation who like we were growing up, if you were a teenager when this came out, you're looking at stuff that was supposed to be cool, right? And it's like anything that was supposed to be cool, you go like. Ugh.
And I think what I'd like about this as well is that something it maintained from the 80s was adults failing to realise what teenagers are into, and teenagers being portrayed by 35-year-olds or whatever. It was carried
Yeah.
on. 35. Floyd made a good point. A film is dated when it references pop culture that's no longer relevant, and then follows up with like scary movie franchise is a good example. And you know, there's like date movie and scary movie, of course, date movie, disaster movie, all of those. They're those really kind of like, here's jokes about Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and whatever, and you know, flip phones.
I mean, I think parody films are probably the worst culprit for that. But then they themselves were a kind of subgenre that just went away really quickly. Although they still rear their ugly head every now and again, but it's like no one's really buying that anymore. But I think, you know, you looked at, I mean, I always point to the Bond franchise only because it's the longest running franchise in history. So it's kind of like, well, that's something you can really chart the change in attitude. And it was sort of, I mean, it's funny because they are sort of thought of as films that reflect their times, and in some ways they do, but in other ways it's like, well, yeah, but Bond has always been an anachronistic character, so it's kind of like, I don't know that he necessarily, I mean, I suppose in terms of the fashion maybe, but it's like, but then yeah, I think you know, you look at those films and you go, the ones that have dated the worst are the ones that made pop culture references. You know, it's like things like the in Moonraker, the code on the door is the theme to 2001 or whatever, you know, stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, I do think things date themselves when they reference the time they're in, perhaps, but yeah, it's a hard one. I mean, I don't really know. But then I can't imagine like my daughter watching this in, well, I guess 18 years time and sort of going, you know, I don't see any need to consider this old or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think she'd probably look at this and go, "This looks dated as shit."
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? It's stuff you live through as well. It's stuff you see firsthand. Because I remember, like, because there was a time watching this, it was like, yep, this is all normal. This is what everything looks and sounds like right now. Because there's no, you know, you don't sort of, it's like you don't watch TV today and kind of like, look at all the stupid stuff we're wearing. Oh, this will be dumb in 20 years. I could do a podcast about it. Like, that's insane.
Although I do have to say that this time of, you know, the early 2000s, there was a sort of sense of things needing a shake up. Like there were stale ideas knocking around.
Well, this was a lot of the just before people, as younger people may not know, and as it's easy to forget, people were very afraid of rebooting things. I think Batman Begins opened the floodgates for everyone's kind of like, sweet, we can just start from scratch and people will get it. Because there was even people at the time going like, everyone knows the Joker killed Batman's parents. It's like, no, it's not. No, yeah. It's not. No, it's not. It's not. Isn't. What are you doing? No, stop.
Oh, I walked out the cinema with my friend Olivia, and she was like, but Joker killed. No, it's not a prequel. That was because of Star Wars, though. Everyone's going, but it's a prequel. It's like, no, it's a reboot. Yeah. Why don't you get this? But yeah, I yes, and also I think, but it was also things like, I think 9/11 really shook up things in terms of like, it was suddenly this thing that was played out globally, this real horrific thing that was televised, and like, I know it's not the first televised thing like that, but it's like, it really had an impact on film at the time. And it's like, you know, suddenly you couldn't really have a film that was just, you know, I mean, things like this and things like, you know, like Die Another Day is obviously hugely derided, and I know this is all post 9/11, but it's like, these are sort of vestiges of what was happening around then in the like late 90s and stuff. And it was like, it was quite plasticky, not particularly, you know, stakes in films didn't seem particularly high. You know, what we were getting was quite sort of tepid. You know, it's things like even things like Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. It's like, that we talked about this before, but it's like the tropes of someone jumps off a roof, but they've got a grapple, or you know what I mean, and there was always that thing that people thought was so cool to just sort of jump off something, but then casually fall to the ground, you know, and like
it's kind of like the slow motion walk away from an explosion. It's a little bit
like yeah, exactly.
Everyone's too fucking cool for school all the time.
When you had stuff like that, and it was just like, you couldn't buy, like, anytime you went to the cinema, you couldn't buy that, you know, your hero was about to fall to their death, or there were just no stakes, because you were like, oh, you know, he's got a grapple hidden in his asshole or something.
In his asshole.
His asshole. You know, it was like something, they were always just going to survive, and it was like there were never any, you know, nothing felt real. And then things like Batman Begins came along, and it was like, wow, this is like, I know that Chris Nolan's intention wasn't necessarily to do that, but his intention was to say, look, what would it realistically take
Sorry, very quick interjection because it's time sensitive. Gary Chalk is chewing out his subordinate here, and it's probably one of the only political things in it, but he's got that portrait of George W. Bush on the wall behind him, and it's framed over his shoulder while he's bollocking the guy, and it feels like a really soft touch, sort of 2003 thing of going like, oh, well, we don't like him, because that's the kind of weak satire of that era. But just post 9/11 shit. So sorry, Carrie. I just wanted to say before it.
No, that's all right. No. I mean, I was pretty filibustering anyway.
Town Hall Casey.
Toilet paper. But you know what I mean. Anyway, that's yeah. I mean, I do think things like Batman Begins was a real. I know it's the mainstream sort of thing, but it was like, yeah, that really shook things up as far as I was concerned. And then after that, I mean, people would point to the Bourne movies as being the genesis of that. I'm not so sure, because I think it was the Bourne Identity was a great film, but it didn't quite have what people tend to refer to as like the Bourne Supremacy and the Bourne Ultimatum. Those were the Greengrass ones that were like shaky cam, people getting slammed into things. Those were pretty visceral. The Bourne Identity was visceral, and it's probably my preferred of that original trilogy, but it's not quite, it still feels like kind of a late 90s film, even though I know it's not. But yeah, Batman Begins for me was a real genesis of like, wow, like I can actually invest myself in this, and then Bond did it with Casino Royale and stuff like that, and it was like, wow, okay.
Well, these two franchises, because once it was like we can reboot and remake things now, because Michael Bay's company Platinum Dunes did Texas Chainsaw, had success with that, so they did Freddy and they did Jason, and it's something that neither of these franchises wanted to do because people just wouldn't accept reboots. What's the wisdom? It was bollocks. It's bullshit. It's gross underestimation of your audience. But the wisdom was that you can't just reboot things, and then it opened the thing for Bond. And among that, Mark Flanagan has asked, Duncan, do you think Bond has tracked the masculine ideal well? Sorry, pardon me. Do you think I did a little bouch? Duncan, do you think Bond has tracked the masculine ideal image, open brackets, fantasized ideal image, pretty well over the years?
What?
Has Bond tracked the masculine ideal image well over the years? That's what I've read it badly. The ideal masculine image, has Bond tracked that throughout the years?
Well, I suppose some people would say that he's been ahead of it and that he's created it, but I don't know, because I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really around then to kind of know what
the current Bond films since Skyfall seem very keen to put him in the old car and give him the old gun and put him in a kind of version of because his suit is sort of like I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? But it's sort of like the Connery one. It's that grey kind of Italian cut thing.
Well, he's gone for So the Bond of the books, there's Fleming wrote kind of almost not ad nauseum, but he wrote about things like he was very specific about James Bond. But Bond was quite austere in how he dressed, and I know Connery essentially did. It was like a navy suit, white shirt or blue shirt, very plain colours, and a grenadine tie. That's it, and that's, I think, they've tried to do that with Craig's stuff, I guess, like with his wardrobe. It's quite, but I mean, Craig generally, I think, is quite inspired by Steve McQueen. So there's a lot of outfits that the more casual ones are very heavily inspired by McQueen, including, I think there's a Tom Ford cardigan from Quantum of Solace, I think, that is, they dubbed the McQueen cardigan and then got sued by Steve McQueen's heirs,
right?
Because that was not something they paid for. And it's like a 1,500 quid cardigan. It's like, dude, you could have paid, but or at least okayed it. It's like, no, I didn't mean McQueen, Steve McQueen. I meant McQueen, the designer, who I was pals with, Andrew. Is it Andy McQueen? Whatever.
Or Steve McQueen, the director, who's alive and not you. So shut up. He said it's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. He likes cardigans. What's your problem? Said Tom Ford. Tom Ford doesn't sound anything. Anyway, so track the male ideal. I mean, I think probably. I mean, like obviously Daniel Craig was kind of the beefcake Bond, wasn't he? Like he famously.
Well, he has that kind of rugby look, doesn't he?
He's
a kind of.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that falls into the kind of what happened with Batman Begins, which is that he just had to physically look capable of doing the things that he's doing, and that's sort of fair enough. I think if he's going to be throwing himself off cranes onto the roofs of partially constructed buildings, he ought to look like he can take it, because I think again, like, there's nothing against what came before, but I do think Pierce Brosnan was starting to look a bit. Even he only did 4 films over the course of 7 years. It's like that he was starting to look a bit like it wasn't his fault. It was more the kind of where the films were at. But it's like you're not gonna be kite surfing a tsunami, mate. Yeah, don't look the sort. It's like, yeah, I know, and it's just like that's.
So Adam Talentine sent $4.99. No question. Thank you, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Adam. Yeah. So yes, in answer to your question, I guess so, but not. I mean, what is it? That's a wide-ranging question, I suppose.
Fair dues.
And not related to Freddy versus Jason, so I'm sorry to
You don't talk about the film.
Yeah.
Oh well. I mean, you're getting like Bond questions coming in, mate. Anyway, so
sorry.
That's this is quite freaky. This is the cool Coma Award thing, and I think in a moment they all kind of sit up and just eyelessly stare, which is kind of cool. It's a very aggressively blue film. This is. Not blue in a kind of 1970s northern stand-up comedian way. Hey, look at my wife's fanny. Not that kind of blue.
Right.
Right.
Right. Not a sort of I was going to say Rod Hull, but that's not who I'm talking about at all.
You're so tired of.
Sorry.
I feel like I've just dragged. Don't apologise. You've just been dragged out of real life into this nonsense to watch a film you don't like. It's this shit.
A scary film.
A scary film.
CG looking.
Look at that
Freddy
thing.
Penis.
It really is just a knob, isn't it? So I think it's vaguely sort of Alice in Wonderlandish, and it does.
Right.
It does. It leaps down Wish.com Jason Mewes' throat. Just sort of great. But then fucking Jay and Silent Bob are in Scream 3 as Jay and Silent Bob, which is this really kind of reality bending.
Are they?
Yeah, they're briefly in it in character when they're on the movie set, and it kind of crosses over with when they do go, because then they go to a Scream 4. They go to Scream 4 being shot in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and like the Ghostface is being played by an orangutan. It's kind of a great joke, but then there's also fucking what is it? So in Scream they're watching Halloween, but I think in Halloween H20 somebody's watching Scream 2 or something, and it's like stop it! It doesn't make sense. Stop it! Stop it!
Eric Granlund says, doesn't Casino Royale even have a similar color balance as? I think you mean 2, Batman Begins. Coincidence? Stop with the fucking statements posed as questions. I won't have it. I won't have it. But does it? I don't know about color balance. It's got a.
I think there's a 2003 look, but I've never watched Casino Royale all the way through. As I explained on a podcast. No. You've never seen Casino Royale. I liked a bit when he made the man eat the toilet.
Casino Royale 2. The man eat the toilet. Actually, I think you'll find it was a urinal.
A urinal? That's a type of toilet.
Is it though?
I just piss in it, not shit. It's not a toilet.
Toilet has to be capable of both.
Wait,
it's
so
got to be dual purpose.
What would you call a place that you can only shit in? This is your chance to coin a term. You could invent. You dunk a case. No. That already exists. Sorry. That already exists. I want a proper one, a proper clinical sounding one that could be a bedfellow to your rhinal.
The claricature.
The claricature. The feculator.
The clerical. That's an actual thing.
Why what's a clerical?
I've no idea. I'm just saying words, Richard. I don't know.
Duncan's not going to remember any of this.
I hope not.
Lewis is off. See you, Lewis. He should crap in a barrel, says Kevin J. James.
Barrel. Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. Ah, Jesus.
There he comes now with his hockey mask.
and his lad in his hand.
Lad in his hand. That's the Fly. That's different.
It's lad in a jar.
It's Lad in a Jar. The Fly versus Freddy versus Hellraiser versus Jason versus Halloween versus Michael Myers. That's a different thing. Versus what else? The Candyman. Candyman would be interesting. Candyman versus Freddy would be an interesting one because they ostensibly do the same. Oh, and Pennywise because they're like basically if you
yes,
stop
of
believing in them,
course.
they'll fuck off.
Yeah,
I've always
yeah.
been like, well, I believe in you, so fuck off.
I don't believe fuck off. But sort of that's probably not as easy as it sounds. I like how he first using tranquilizer on Jason makes no sense. Since he says if bullets don't work on him, why would drugs? But also the way he cuts that guy in half is pretty wild. I love that, and in one swipe as well.
Yeah, I've never understood. There is that sort of odd thing of like physical things sometimes work on them. It's like that whole idea of hiding from Pinhead. It's like, well, but he appears wherever he wants to. I don't...
Yeah, well, that's
or
it.
like Candyman.
Jason gets shot and everything doesn't work, but in this film, this whole thing relies on him being drugged, and it's like, well, no. But also, I don't care because it's a Freddy versus Jason film, so I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely fine to go in on that.
So I guess that works.
Yeah,
there's a lot of shitter renamings going on.
the fecator says Rob Myers. The defecator says Sam Dukesbury. Clavicle log bowl. I quite like log bowl.
The log bowl.
The thing is about a toilet that you can only poo in. That would be on a basis of enforcement. Because how would you stop? Because you can poo in a urinal, but it won't go away. But if you,
well, it would have to be something shaped like literally would just go on your bum, and that's it.
That would not
physically get.
That would directly collect the poo, regardless of the scale on the Bristol stool chart.
Maybe that's what the 3 seashells were all about.
Maybe perfectly harnessing your logs, captain's logs. Yeah, so this is kind of great. It's silly CGI. Yeah. I love all the stupid blood that pisses out and stuff, and he does a sort of like glang and grows his arms out when he's writhing around with no arms. Perfect. Yeah, this he does a little kind of blow. And hey, it's an hour in, then you get Freddy does the wanker sign as well. It's an hour in and you get to see Freddy finally versing Jason, which I'm fine with because it's been built up to. It's not like you just have an hour and a half long punch up fast show style. It's good as that would be.
That's true. There is a sort of build up to it and stuff, which is cool. And because that's the whole point of this thing is it's like you're supposed to sort of see kind of how that happened and why that happened. You know what I mean? It's like because essentially up until now it's been a Freddy and a Jason film.
Yeah. And it's been built slowly building them together, and you've got to have the kind of the first bout because they face off in the dream world first before they go into the real world later, and everything. Right. And it all kind of makes sense and adds up. Aside from having to drug Jason, which is just dumb.
Yeah.
So you can't shoot him.
Oh, that's how he's. Oh, okay. So it's because he's been drugged. He's in the dream world.
Exactly. Yeah. So Freddy possessed Jason Mewes knockoff, so he could tranquilize him. Right. And. Yeah, so I haven't really talked about the fact that obviously about the documentary that I worked on last year because I've been trying not to because I've talked about it a lot. I don't really see what I'm going to add, but I did. The lighting I used for that was designed to look like the kind of Dreamworld scenes from the older movies where it's a bit more kind of rusty because this is like aggressively red. We talked at one point about just going insanely red. And then the other thing was like perhaps getting a projector and projecting a kind of boiler room in the background before lighting. But then we just kind of went for a more, what was at our disposal was a studio full of lights and stuff that we could use as props. So we went for a kind of, look, this looks like behind the scenes on a movie, but we're going to light it a bit kind of like the Nightmare World from the older Freddy movies, which is what we ended up doing. I designed the lighting scheme for that film on the plane to America because I was only been fucking asked to do it 10 days before we flew, and I only met Gary and the crew like on the plane, at the airport. So I watched a Nat Geo documentary and thought about my lighting design on the flight over, and then sort of had it almost ready to go before we went to Robert's house and met him and his wife. Now it's gone green. All the colours, red, green and blue, all 3 colours.
Yeah, but no, it's you did a great job because I've seen screen grabs and stuff from it, and it looks fucking awesome. So,
well, I've heard tell that it will be out early next year, quite early next year. I need to chase up about that, but I saw a little trailer for it, and hopefully it'll be out, and then Be quite nice to do like a little Val Verde commentary to that or something.
Yeah.
Maybe for Patreon or something.
Yep.
Yeah, when it's out.
Sounds cool, man.
Sam Montgomery's. Did you watch the Child's Play remake with Mark Hamill as Chucky?
Did.
What did you think? I kind of looked. I thought it looked alright.
Yeah, it was one. Do you know what? It was one of those like fairly superfluous films, but it was alright. It was alright. I didn't think that the whole like it needed the whole. He's basically Alexa in a doll type.
Yes,
I just didn't need that.
It's a bit of that's quite a thing to do for a remake because that really fundamentally changed. Because he's not even really Chuck anymore; he's a robot. Like Chucky's like a dead serial killer's mind in a doll. Like
he's a glitching robot. If it's like the Terminator essentially, and it's like, but the point was he was a serial killer reincarnated in a doll, and it was magic and it was stuff like that. Whereas this wasn't. It was. I mean, it almost had a kind of Cable Guy vibe to it as well because the whole like be my friend type thing. I mean, it was all right. It was. Do you know what? It was. As insofar as sort of reinventing a trashy slasher type dealio, it was fine. I don't think anyone was crying out for it, and I don't think it's going to be remembered terribly well. But I thought it was fine.
I want to watch it. The reviews, I haven't seen it. The reviews were kind of decent-ish, and I thought it looked kind of cool. And I like Mark Hamill. It's a bit of a shitter for Brad Dourif. However, there's an in-continuity Chucky TV show coming, and Brad Dourif is still Chucky, and the real Chucky continuity still continues. So. Cool, fine, whatever. Cool. I think everybody gets to, that's a good case of everybody gets to keep what they want, which is kind of nice to see. On the Chucky note, Mr. HEC 381991 says, "There's your problem. Someone switched this thing to evil."
Oh yeah,
the crusty doll.
Crusty doll, yeah. It's just evil and good on his back. He's like bringing him waffles or something at the end of little pancakes. Love it.
People are very like this film really leans into Jason's fear of water, and Floyd has pointed out it doesn't really make sense because Jason sneaks onto a boat in part 8, and he sort of lived under a lake as a zombie corpse. Like it just something they really lean into for this film. It's like okay, but it makes about as much sense as anything else really.
It's like Pinhead being afraid of hell. It's like
no, not hell.
Not again. I live there.
I've raised it loads of times. I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Does anyone pay me any attention?
They wanted to do so. There are various attempts to develop this over the years, going as far back as Friday 9, like I said. And one of the concepts, because here we got the flashback to Jason being bullied at the camp, and they put the sack on his head, which is like Jason had like a movie in a bit without the hockey mask and stuff.
Literally dry humping on the porch.
Look at that. Well, he must have his fly undone. He's got his fly undone to penetrate her. They pitched a version where Freddy was a camp counselor who molested Jason as a child.
Okay.
And that's a bit dark for this. Robert Englund is very, very insistent that Freddy Krueger is not a child molester; he's a child murderer. Which, in a way, is like, well, that's loads better. But but I take his point, like, because if nobody wants to be a famous child molester, do they? Even in fiction.
I mean, but then, I suppose. But then, who's like you say, it's sort of splitting hairs because at that point, it's kind of like, well, if you're. I mean, I'm not making the case for if you're going to kill kids, you might as well. I'm not making that case at all.
No, well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, but by the time you've gone that far, I mean, you're trying to save a sinking ship there, really, aren't you? So I didn't fuck him. I just killed him. It's like, well, I get it from here.
Because they just really piss me off.
They're just wankers. I don't fancy them. I'm not a pedo. I get it was something he was really insistent about both times we spoke to him, which is like fair, and I get it because like it's not a nice place to be in, I suppose, where it's kind of like I'm famous for playing a paedophile. That's not ideal, is it? But that's
then
just
in this he was licking the photo of a kid,
dude, right? And he's got like a little girl murder layer. I mean, I just like murdering them. I'm not a pedo.
I like the taste of photos.
Oh, what? Delicious!
That's normal.
It's not
It's not sexual.
I was licking a photo of a watering can before you walked in. You didn't film that, did you? We got
murder it.
It's a watering can. You can't fuck it either. It just tastes like photos, developing fluid. It's fucking strange tangent this is gone. We spoke to Tim Sullivan, who directed Robert in 2001 Maniacs, and he had his own pitch for Freddy versus Jason. I think he turned his materials over to our production, I think, to use. And the third act of, I think it was his pitch, or at least he had the materials. And the third act of his film was Freddy and Jason fuse into Freyson or Jedi, whatever. And there was concept art of it, which is kind of like, okay, but the thing with that is like, is he going to stab himself in his own dream? Because you're not really versing anything anymore, are you? This is a bit like, right. Don't call Batman versus Superman, because what it should be called is Batman versus Superman have an understanding and then team up. Because that was only ever going to be that, so you shouldn't have called it that. Like, if you don't call it that, we won't have an expectation.
Dawn of Justice on the end of it. It's like, well, obviously, yeah. Like,
this needs to be longer.
That was really cool. Really nicely photographed. That of like Jason turning around in the water.
Yeah, well, the coming out, the leap and stuff. Yeah, and I like the demon makeup with the kind of pointy ears and it's all kind of thorny and things.
It's cool. Really cool. That's really nicely done. In fact, and all this stuff is really nicely covered. Like all that shot of the forest and there's lots of smoke everywhere and stuff. It's good. It's nicely.
It gets the dream aesthetic well because there's these kind of wide angle shots and kind of high angles and things. And when she was, oddly enough, it's a thing they do in the dream sequence in Papillon when he's like everything's in slow motion. When she goes to speak to the camp counselors, it's all high frame rate slow motion stuff. It's just nicely done. And Ronnie Yu covers action really well. Like I think there are great little moments in it that are set up very nicely and covered really nicely. Because if there is a piece of there's like a prop in the scene or like a gas can or whatever that needs to get blown up, we'll usually get kind of an insert of it first very quickly, but it doesn't break up the flow, and then when we come back to it and someone blows it up, it's like, oh well, I know that's there, that was in the geography of the scene. At no point. This is really cool, the floorboards. It's great dream logic stuff, which at this point in this series you would hope they were doing well, because I think this is the 8th Nightmare film. I'm saying that in a sort of like, am I wrong? Because I worked on a whole film about this, and not knowing isn't a good look. But
I always thought that the sort of knife glove was horribly impractical, because it's like if you try and stab someone with it, it's not. I mean, I suppose it relies on the impact.
A lot of finger strength. It's sort of, I suppose slashing, lots of slashing.
Sort of splint them together.
Like with the gaffer tape around the fingers.
Yeah.
But
it would be quite dexterous. So there's that.
That's very true. It does look cool, and
it does.
that goes a long way, doesn't it? Looking cool.
It's the Eddie Izzard diagram of the like parrots on the shoulder thing. Like there's that, but then there's what's in the X-Men 2, the lady, the one who's like Wolverine, but she has essentially long fingernails.
Oh,
made of
isn't that like Lady Deathstrike or something she's called?
Something like that. And it's like, that's one step too far. Like, that's just fingernail. Or like Nuclear Man with his long, nasty fingernails. It's like, well, that's not cool.
I think when
like
you get
strapping
into
knives to your fingers, that's cool.
I can't wipe my arse territory, you're in trouble. Like, that's no good. Permanent finger spikes. It's kind of like, yeah, we've got the ultimate weapon, but we don't feed her like chili con carne or black coffee, because someone has to deal with that shit.
Yeah, we have to constantly feed her antihistamines, because if she got any sniffles at all, she'd swipe her face clean off.
Mark Flanagan has asked Richard, would you say the Hong Kong influence comes in, if at all? It doesn't really link up with Hong Kong genres. No, I mean, kind of Hong Kong sort of horror stuff is kind of tangentially linked. What I would say in terms of like bringing an Asian director into this, and this is a really good time for it. By the way, I love when Robert wakes up and realizes what's going on. He does a great bit of face acting there. It's something I just talked about a minute ago, really. Like, Hong Kong action scenes really love an environmental hazard. And it's like in a Jackie Chan movie. Like, it's something that they translated very well, I think, to the Transporter films. Like, in a Jackie Chan film, for example, if someone reaches over a stove, Jackie turns the stove on to burn their wrists, and they go hot, 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 hot. You know what I mean? You can't just like it's one thing to just hit someone with a frying pan, but in like a Jackie Chan movie or like a Sammo Hung movie, like something has to. There's some inventive sort of environmental thing that has to happen, and I always kind of tangentially link this because this has the it kind of turns into like a Rube Goldberg machine in the end. It's not quite that clever, but it's got that kind of environmental hazard video game thing of like there's the rebar, like he drops the rebar on him, but then he launches the does he set up bombs away? And Freddy's like using his claw to launch the gas canisters at Jason.
That's right.
And there's those kind of inventive little environmental hazard things, which I think feels quite Hong Kong-ish, or kind of like, you know, Asian action cinema type stuff. But yeah, no, because Ronnie Yu did a ton of movies before this and hasn't done a lot. Like I looked up his IMDb actually, and I think I've got it tabbed. Let me see. He hasn't done anything since 2013. Just gonna sort of like I don't want to just realise he's dead and it's really sad. That would be awful. And he is alive. Okay, great. But yeah, he's come on. Yeah, he's not done a lot for a while. And to be honest, like after this, he did a thing called Fearless, and then like a TV show, and then something called Saving General Yang, and then Norton. Just a bit weird. So he's very, he's, you know, I'm not saying he's the most amazing director in the world, but he knows his way around an action scene. You know, he's good at lending himself to sort of genre shit. So yeah, don't know.
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, because he had you know, had some decent momentum going on.
Yeah, it's weird. They were handing him, you know, because that 51st State was written by some British guy who worked in a video shop and got made. And it's got like every actor from Brit crime films, but Samuel L. Jackson is in it, and it's directed by a director from Taiwan. So okay, and that was that desperately wanted to sort of be halfway between Lock, Stock, and Human Traffic, didn't it? And it was fine. It was fine. It was completely fine. And that's what 51st State was. Bride of Chucky's a good laugh. It's that's you are then therefore like most people. It's one of these things my brother brought home. It's like, this looks shit, and then watch it and like, this is kind of shit. It's like, if only we could cast Rhys Ifans 70 times, and you know, I don't know.
Yeah, because Notting Hill or whatever. Charlie, who I was talking about earlier, directed a film, I believe, in that kind of mold. It came out in 2007, but it was like Gary Oldman and Robert Carlyle and people like that in it, called Dead Fish, that Billy Zane and stuff. And it's like it never got a release here, but I mean, I've seen bits of it. I haven't seen all of it yet, and I really should watch it. But it was like that to me looked more like where that sort of genre should have gone, and it just for some reason didn't.
Right.
You know, and then Guy Ritchie. I mean, what did I? Oh well, we watched The Gentleman the other week because it was on Prime.
Oh yeah, what did you? I mean, yeah, I've
really.
This doesn't
sound film good. No, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I don't want to slag off British film. I really don't. I don't want to be down on it and stuff like that. But it just felt a lot like a film that didn't have anything to say except gangsters are cool, and you know, and it was just like, I don't get what you're trying to say here. It was just like, all right, but this time it's Matthew McConaughey and he's cool because he says cool shit. I mean, you know.
It felt a lot like Guy Ritchie going back to the well. And it's quite surprising because he took his massive payday job with Aladdin, which I don't blame him for that at all. I fucking would. Like, oh, hi, Disney here. Would you like a gazillion pounds to make something that already exists?
The Sherlock films as well. You know, those were... actually, I really liked... I don't think I saw the second one, but certainly the first Sherlock film was a good film, man. Like he did a really great job with that. He's a guy. He can do great stuff. I
think he's a good action director. I think he's quite a good visualist. I mean, because I always liked Lock, Stock, and Snatch. I've not watched either of them in a while, but there's some really cool visual stuff in them.
For sure.
You know what? I think a lot of what pissed people off is it's all the tedious imitations of those films, mostly. He's a bit of a... I do find Guy Ritchie, though, people kind of wrongly assumed he was up to something quite deep, and he really isn't. Like that fucking... what was that one with Statham, the Kabbalah one? With Statham has long hair and the moustache. And it thought it was like, this is clever because I'm playing chess. Life's like chess because chess is what clever people do. I play chess, I'm Guy Ritchie. It's that for 2 hours. It was this really embarrassingly overwrought kind of
Yeah, because didn't he do a thing on Joe Rogan or something where he was sort of talking, it was quite philosophical. He was waxing
revolver.
philosophical. Yeah, and it's just like someone just Rob Myers just put Madonna. Yeah, no, I mean, I think he I don't have a problem. You know, I think he's better when he just focuses on making a good movie rather than trying too hard, if that makes sense. Like, it's kind of, I just felt with The Gentleman, it was like, this is going to be a geezers. This is a return to the geezers and gangsters thing. And it's like, we never left as a trust me, as a bloody,
as a working British actor. Yeah, I'm sure you know.
Yeah,
about it.
we never fucking left that behind. And it's like, I wish we would. And it's kind of like, I get he was the instigator of a lot of that, but that film just didn't. It was fine, again, fine. I think if you watch it, it's not a waste of time, and I like everyone in it, and I think it's very well mounted as a production, and I love, it's got Hugh Grant doing a funny Cockney voice, and
oh yeah, of course, yeah,
and all this sort of stuff, and that's fine, but it just doesn't mean anything. None of it really means anything. It's got Charlie Humdrum doing
Charlie Humdrum,
but yeah, I think it's fine. It's absolutely, it's fine.
Well, I've got no motivation to watch it really on that basis. It's kind of like, what am I gaining from this?
You're not missing anything, but you're also not losing anything. It's one of those sort of, if you're not bothered, don't bother. Yeah, I suppose, is this the horror version of Captain America wielding Mjolnir?
Well, someone's compared it to Looney Tunes actually in the comments, which isn't far off. I've got a great comment from Doug Wanacott. I'm not sure of the context for it, but I like it a lot. Apparently, my granddad was a druid. He died before I was born. When I was little, I didn't know what a druid was. I got confused with droid and genuinely thought he was a robot. That, as a kid, it's like, because I never met my granddad either, and if someone had told me as a robot, I'd have been like, oh my fucking god, I missed out so hard. Like my cool robot granddad.
He's a robot, can't we reboot him?
Well, indeed, yeah, repair him. Captain so much. Anybody seen Knives Out? I loved it. I really like Knives Out. I've not liked anything that Rian Johnson has done, but I really like Knives Out, and it's Agatha Christie vibes.
If it had been a film, here's the Gladiator effect. If it had been a film that I came to organically, I would have really liked Knives Out. But because it had to star a million famous people, and because it was built up as this just insanely amazing movie by the media and by, you know what I mean? Like, and it was like, Daniel Craig does a southern accent. I mean, can you believe is there no end to this man's talent? And it's like, well, I mean, it's fine. It's not. I did one in a film, didn't get me. Not that I'm bitter. All right, but you know what I mean. It's got that kind of like. It was just way overhyped, and I watched it. and I was like, yeah, it's a good film.
I kind of ignored all that and watched it at my own time on a Sunday afternoon.
Not the second coming of cinema, Christ. You know what I mean? It's like, it's fine.
Hey, look, Rian Johnson is one that I've never liked anything he's done, and I really like that. I went in with an open mind. I really enjoyed it. I watched it on my own terms. I thought it was really good, really great Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, as a film on its own terms, it's fine. But I think it has this sort of nod. It has this sort of nod, wink, wink. Thinks it's quite subversive thing about it.
It is basically it is a straight up murder mystery done well. And people talk about The Last Jedi like it's like really subversive, and it really isn't. Like, it's not doing anything that clever. It just constantly talks about how clever it is. And like, forget the past. You have to let go of the past. So anyway, here's a bunch of stuff you remember from the past. It's like, come on, yeah. Knives Out was like if Daniel Craig playing Colonel Sanders as Columbo on that level, and like the all the characters' motivations and the mystery, and there's a really excellent cast. Like, I quite liked it. It put me in the mind of one of those kind of crazy, late classical Hollywood, insane cast movies. Which I liked a lot, and lots of good villains, and Jamie Lee Curtis is a treasure. You can find Don Johnson and stuff in there. Oh yeah, I thought it was great. No,
dude. I mean, it's like you said. Like I say, if it was something that I'd sort of happened upon, or if it had just been what it was, what I suppose I railed against was the way it was hyped up to me. Because when I watched it, I was like, I don't think this was ever meant to have that kind of momentum behind it. I don't think it was. It's just a really nice murder mystery film with some decent high production values and a really great cast. But I mean, it's like Murder. Did you see the remake or the recent remake of Murder on the Orient Express with Kenneth Branagh?
And that's a series now, isn't it?
Yeah, they're doing Death on the Nile, which is teased at the end of that anyway, because he gets off the Orient Express and the guy comes running up to him and goes, "Monsieur Poirot, you are needed somewhere," and he hands him a letter, and he goes, Egypt, and then it's like fades to black.
And should like get off the train and there's a boat, and it's like quickly to the Nile. Like, all this stuff happened to Poirot in one weekend. Every case was this insane marathon, and then no one spoke to him the rest of the time.
But sorry, I just got a lot of I do like Knives Out. I don't want to make it sound like I hate Knives Out. That's really bad. But you know what I mean? I just, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, no, I liked it a lot, but it's not like I said, it's not the second coming, and it's but I just ignored the hype and then had a chance to watch it because it was on Prime. Good Sunday afternoon murder mystery. I was like, yeah, cool. I dug it. I was into it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm sounding like I'm being down on it.
Doug Wanacott says, "Well, I can't say this has made me want to watch this film with the sound on or try any of the other Friday or Nightmare films." Doug, I'm banning you from the chat. I'm going to be blocking you on Twitter, on all. No, not really. I'm not going to enact sort of mad pettiness. Fair enough. Fair enough, Chia. Oh, Nathan Adler Inc. says he literally says there has been a murder on the Nile.
Right,
at the end
okay.
of Forest. That's pretty. How was the murder on the Orient Express? There's been a murder on the Nile, and then they just go to the next.
Which isn't the name of the film. It's Death on the Nile.
Oh, there's been a death on the Nile. Someone died on my brother. It's a different spelling, but it's a homophone.
It's a homophone.
Like Freddy winks. This is like, because I said on the old commentary, it's kind of like there's a winner, and they're like, no, there isn't. Freddy winks, and it's like, well, he's just ahead. I get it. Like,
if that was his aim, fine. But
the long game. So they did a
to become a head in a jar, so you can be in Futurama or something.
That's the sequel. They were talking about doing Freddy versus Jason versus Ash with Bruce Campbell, which didn't come off. Right. But they did a comic. They did I think quite a few volumes of the comic that people seem to like, and I think that's probably something that works better as a comic. I imagine. I don't know, but Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, which kind of I wonder. There's the energy there is kind of good because you've got kind of blustering dipshit Ash, and then you've got kind of quipper Freddy, then silent Jason. Because I wonder if putting Pinhead in the mix, I don't know what the energy would be there. Because I suppose you've got this kind of super dour, kind of kinky torture one, and then the kind of goofy child molester, then the quiet one. I don't know if introducing a third person to the versus circle is a good idea.
Yeah, well, making it a circle is probably not a great idea, is it? Or a triangle.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you're really going to stick to the rules, like Freddy's out now, so it has to be Jason versus the next one. I mean, like Jason versus Michael Myers would be spectacularly boring. It's just two silent killers just standing around stabbing it. That would, to me, would be if you're old enough to remember the Far Show, the big long punch up. Just be like 90 minutes of them stabbing each other till one of them goes down.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I because obviously I think we talked about this before, but the Halloween series is kind of a bit wishy-washy on whether or not Michael Myers has any kind of supernatural powers or whatever. But and
as it wears on, they sort of introduce that he's kind of psychic and he was cursed by a cult and stuff like that. And it's like, okay.
So is the shark from Jaws the Revenge?
Yes, indeed. Maybe it's the same cult. It's all tied together, isn't it?
So next it'll be Jaws versus Jason versus Freddy versus Michael Myers versus Pinhead or whatever. But then you get to the point. The thing is, you get to the point where you have to kind of like explain away an awful lot of shit, and it's just like, why don't you just call it Horror Rumble? And
see, that's I think I tell you what, you've sort of perhaps indirectly hit the nail on the head for me there. In that, what I like about this is a weird kind of honesty to it. Because Horror Rumble is very honest. And Freddy versus Jason is called Freddy versus Jason, and Freddy versus Jason. Like, you told me I was getting a thing, I got the thing, thanks. Whereas like Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is like, well, you're not really, that's not what that is.
But it's also an annoying mission statement, because it's like, I remember saying this before that film even came out. I was like, well, have you not just described your film? Like, Batman's gonna v Superman, then they're gonna start the Justice League.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, I mean, and it's kind of what happens. I mean, I know it's not
Batman
quite, but
versus Superman, one of them dies, and then there's a Justice League. Is not what you're ever going to call that. So don't
yeah,
bullshit
I mean,
me. You know.
yeah. But it's yeah, that is a honking title. But I mean, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it does what it says on the tin. It delivers you that, and I think I think this over delivers. Actually, I think Freddy vs Jason actually gives you way more than you necessarily think.
Mm.
You know, some of it's quite gated, but
Yeah, well, and then that so's most of the films in this franchise. There's no no qualms there. And yeah, you're right. It over delivers, and I think because it's one thing to see it as a playground film, it would have been amazing, and and it is the fruition of playground dreams, because they actually do have the punch up. There's nothing worse when they put something together and they don't fight, or they have make an excuse, but they actually do have the big punch up in the end, and it's quite fun. And and on that level, it completely delivers. We've passed into this phase now, because Mortal Kombat 10, I think, had Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, the Predator, and the Xenomorph. And Mortal Kombat's just gone nuts, and now Mortal Kombat's turned into that childhood fantasy simulator where you can make the Joker fight RoboCop and whatever. It's completely bananas. But all this stuff used to be completely theoretical, and the great thing about, like, if you want to get Mortal Kombat 10 and make Freddy fight Jason, you can get the outcome you want, and then you can see if Freddy can beat the Predator. And now you can have fucking Rambo versus the Terminator and shit.
Yeah, I mean that's all a sort of product of the kind of Lego movie type thing, where it's like these franchises that weren't supposed to necessarily be mixed together were, and I mean, and we've kind of gotten used to that now, where we kind of get this, we're sort of spoiled for all that, and it's like, the Avengers are they doing a Doctor Strange multiverse thing?
It would seem that we're getting, if things go to plan, we're getting a Sam Raimi directed multiverse Doctor Strange and it would appear they're approaching the previous Spider-Man. So they're going to set up the multiverse in that, and then the next Spider-Man film is going to have Doctor Strange in it. And I think ideally they want Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Tom, what's his name, to all Spider-Man up. Probably from Sony's side of things, owing to how well Into the Spider-Verse did for them. Someone's just mentioned Alien vs Predator, which we needed to talk about because that was the year after this, and that does have Aliens versus Predator, but it's because it does happen, but it's really undersold, and it's not as much of it as you'd want, and it's in a kind of wonky context. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and there aren't any good characters around it, and it's not an interesting story. And that's one where people would scoff, kind of going, "Oh, well, what did you expect?" That's what I really hate with people who say, "I bet you think the burgers in McDonald's look like the pictures on the menu." Like, that's some really clever thing to say, and that's kind of what people say, like Alien vs Predator. It's like, "What did you expect?" And it's all snooty and stuff. It's like, no, you can do that well. They just didn't. There's definitely a fun way to tell that story. It's just they happen not to. And then if you're a stuck-up cunt, you get to be a stuck-up cunt about it.
I mean, in that particular story, I think, again, we've spoken about this before, but like the Paul W. Anderson's pitch was full of really great imagery. Like there was that artwork of the Predator jumping in the air and throwing a shuriken. But when it's done in practice, it's like there is one shot, I think, at the end where the Predator jumps up in the air with a spear and lands it in the Queen Alien, and it looks cool. It looks kind of what you wanted the Predator to do, which is that kind of thing, because it's that almost samurai ninja type move, and his dreadlocks all fly out, and it's like an action Predator moment, and it's like, but otherwise they're lumbering Harry and the Hendersons motherfuckers who just stomp about and stab people, and it's like, well, that's not.
And the design of the Predator, because they hired bodybuilder muscle wrestler guys as the Predators, they all look far too big.
And they kill off all the interesting ones and just leave the one that looks like the original one.
The one that looks like the original one, and like so it's just like so one. To be fair, it's not called Aliens versus Predators. It's called Alien versus Predator. There's only 3 of them. Like it's because they did that. They showed in the trailer all the aliens going up the pyramid and the predator like detonating its thing, and it was that total prick tease because it's from that. What you see in the trailer is the whole thing from the fucking film. It's like, did you know that The Rock played one of the Predators? It's like, yeah, I do, and I don't care. It doesn't mean anything. And another muscly dude like miscast in a fucking Predator suit. Paul Anderson cannot cover action well, and I think that's part of the problem because the bits where the aliens and the predators are fighting, and it should be like Freddy versus Jason has 2 kind of really good bouts of like actual fighting, because that's what we're here for. Like the Alien and Predator, at least the first movie, like it just doesn't cover those well because he's not very good at establishing scene geography, and I think his shot choices are very confusing and not particularly aesthetic. So you end up with kind of like, oh, good, a medium shot on a 50mm of some action. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. Now there's lots of boring characters talking for 20 minutes. And it's like, oh, is that Predator throwing the alien? I can't tell because it's really, 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 really dark and everything's quite soft focus and it's all done on kind of kick lights. And there are bits in that where it's all kick light and it's like, well, that's just loads of white lines on the chalkboard as far as I'm concerned. I can't see anything.
The second one is even worse for that, isn't it? Like Requiem, or what is it called? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Requiem.
Of course it's called Requiem. Of course it has the worst subtitle possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which is worse, to be honest. I just think that, yeah, I mean, it didn't. There are ways to tell that story. That wasn't it, and I think the problem is that with those ones, whether it was budgetary or what, but it was like the place to tell that is in the world of the colonial marines. It's not in like the games did.
Like
it's
the games did, yeah.
In a fucking Antarctic pyramid. I mean,
I'm imagining
again. That's a concept art led decision. It's not, a storytelling or character led.
Because it falls apart as soon as you think about it. Because it's kind of like, well, hold on, they go to hot places and stuff while they're in a pyramid, and like what? And so there's been xenomorphs on Earth this whole time. Like the whole thing, you start to pick at it, and it's like, it's like look at this concept art of this predator pyramid on Earth. It's like, oh, that's cool, and that's
also if you can put an alien queen in the freezer and then shove electricity up her bum, and she'll just start laying eggs for you immediately. And
shove electricity up her bum.
Like, where does the electricity come from for a start? But secondly, like, what is that? What is any of that? Like, I don't. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just not. I think there are bits to it. I think Lance Henriksen is great in it. I think most of the actors in it are fine, but I just think it's. Yeah,
was very wrong-headed, and it's just like after following on from Resident Evil, it's the same plot. It's like a ragtag group of people with no personalities go to a place and I'll die until one of them's left, or maybe 2 of them. Who cares? Like it's the exact same fucking plot. Because I think going back to your point, like so the games and the successful media for that seems to be based in the colonial marine world, and that therefore avoids continuity headaches. Because you're setting it in the future, okay, before Alien 3 and 4, but, also who cares? But, you're not going like, oh, there was xenomorphs on Earth this whole time, and they blew up a town. And they do the end of Return of the Living Dead in Alien vs. Predator Requiem. Anyway, said it then, and then it's kind of like, oh, yeah, but there's the budget. And the thing is, like, because Aliens cost less than you think. That wasn't, but they make it look mega bucks, and I realised then adding Predators to the mix is not going to help anyone. But they made that for less than you think, and that film always felt really epic to me, like epic in the true sense, not in the kind of shit young person sense. But like like it feels like a big story with big ideas that takes place in a big location. With lots of variety. It goes up into space, it goes down into the bowels of this planet, it goes outwards across the surface in this big base, huge, the whole thing gets destroyed in a reactor explosion. It just felt like it had this amazing scope. But if you look at it, scrutinize it, it's very good at hiding the fact that it's a few locations redressed. Like there's one model of a spaceship, but they painted different livery on each side, so they just shoot it from different sides. And
really? I didn't know. No.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I think there are 2 landing craft or something, and it's the same model with different livery painted on either side, and they just shoot it from. Thus saving money and stuff. And it's a handful of alien suits that they cover very tightly to make it look like there's hundreds of them, and in actual fact there's several.
Because they're just literally bits stuck on a spandex bodysuit, aren't they? Because it was like what was the budget for Aliens? It's something like 18 million, or it was pretty tight, wasn't it?
It's less than you think, because we talked about it with the commentary, and I just remember it. Yeah, I probably have to look, but I remember it being less than you think. And then like Alien versus Predator, wasn't that 50 million? But that was 20 odd years hence. So
yeah, and different expectations, and I don't. I find Paul W. Sanderson someone I end up defending a lot more than I should. I don't want to be harsh on the guy because I know, by all accounts, I know that he's a really sweet bloke and he really loves what he does.
Yeah.
He's really great to work with, and he's one of those people. It's a bit sort of a Roger Moore situation where it's kind of like you can't be harsh on the guy, and he does hit. He is it sort of stopped clock, I think, but I mean he does hit the odd right note.
Yeah, I mean, it's he's like the stopped clock that was right once, and then someone put it in the bin.
It's like a sort of stopped annual calendar.
Stopped. He's like a broken sundial.
Because if you know your wristwatch complications, you'll know that an annual calendar only needs resetting once every. Oh, I don't even know. No, is it the annual calendar or the perpetual calendar?
This has got out of hand, hasn't it, Duncan? It's got out of hand.
No one cares, but it's a perpetual calendar. I think that you only need to reset it technically every 100 and something years because it knows leap year. It's a mechanical. It's amazing. It's a mechanical watch that can tell you the month and the date accurately for hundreds of years, and then eventually you have to change the mechanism because it won't know. But anyway, but the thing is, you'd need to get it serviced long before that, so it doesn't make sense.
Right.
Anyway. But it's a complication that people pay a lot of money for, and that is what Paul W. Sanderson is.
You need to write that now in text so we can put it on a tweet or something.
Okay,
a tweet thread. People are saying in the chat 18 million for Alien in 1986. 87.
It's not a lot, man. Like, I mean, when you consider that what they were doing and building sets, and I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah, and I think they make that money straight, like Alien, like I said, because that cast of soldiers as well really makes you feel as if. And there's clever use of mirrors, I think, to make certain rooms look bigger. I think they make the sleeping pod room look bigger with the mirrors and stuff like that. And it's just got lots of very good in-camera trickery to make it feel bigger than it is, because you could use that same money to make quite an intimate story. So I think that's the great thing about Aliens, like, because to do Alien 2, it's like Ripley goes to another ship and Alien does the same thing. Would be because like very easily could have been that, and it's one of these things where they took it to easy to forget, they took it to the hot new young director who had done this we liked your robot film, kid, make us an Aliens, I guess was the situation.
Well, he wrote it, didn't they give him the job to write it because it was something to do with like Schwarzenegger had to go and make Conan the Barbarian, which delayed the Terminator, which meant he had time, which meant they gave him the job to write Aliens. And then he did Determination as a success, and they were like, "Well, you might as well direct. You can direct."
Oh, so it was that way, right? Okay, yeah. Because I knew he'd direct because he wrote First Blood 2, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
That was him because he was jobbing. He was yet another of the Corman school of people, and he did. He famously, I think, was part of the team that made the wireframe New York in Escape from New York. Was James Cameron? I think he did matte paintings as well. But there you go. Yeah, so someone's saying Captain Meets Adventure says 18.5 million would be just under 50 million now. So Alien vs Predator is 15 years ago, which says to me that we could have had our Colonial Marines versus Predator versus Alien.
I don't see why not. I suppose as well, 2004, you had adequate CGI. If you used it sparingly for mats or something, you could have made something decent out of that. Why not?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and I think if it was done cleverly. What annoys me also about that is the kind of they did it twice and they did it completely the wrong way, and it's like, well, it can't be done. We tried it. Can't be done. We did it. It's not possible. And then people going again, it's tacky and stupid, and it's like, so we'll never get another swing at that. And it's like, it can be done. I mean, and just to sort of write it off as it's been approached in the wrong way, but just to write it off. I think there's no point now. If someone said this new director's doing an Alien vs Predator film now, it'd be like too much. There's too much water under the bridge now in terms of what's come out and what's been and gone.
I think I think we've had such a medium shift now that I think if you said, oh, Netflix has commissioned a 6-part series, then okay. Because I think people would watch that out of sheer morbid curiosity. Because again, if you were at pains to say this is not that, this is set in the world of aliens. It just features predators, and you were really clear about that. And you do. I don't see why that couldn't fall well within the budget of a streaming service series and look pretty amazing, and be pretty well done.
It's just, yeah, there's a false idea that the concept is wrong, and it's like the concept's not wrong. You just need to get the right kind of creative team in there. Because I'd watch that.
And I think Medium as well. I do think Medium is because it worked really well in comics.
Yeah, so
and in
perhaps
video
then
games.
television is the way to go because you can do a longer form story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think
it's about. Sorry, go on.
Oh, we don't often do that. Little kind of.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No, it's fine. I didn't mean to do either. I forgot what I was going to say. So you might as well carry on. It's fine.
All I was going to say is that I think because when you do something like Alien versus Predator, it's that you're not just saying it's this creature versus that creature. I think you're actually saying it's this world versus that world, and therefore you need to kind of the medium has to be able to demonstrate. I think that's where those films fell flat, was the fact that you took those two characters. They're not characters. They're a type of movie monster, but they took them out completely from the habitat that we'd seen them in before and just chucked them into somewhere else, and somewhere quite mundane. And I think that was, even though it was a fucking Aztec pyramid under Antarctica, but you know what I mean, like it was.
But still, but it's not right. Yeah, it's not right. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because it's the wrong place to do it, because those are two worlds that gel really nicely, because it's ultimate hunter, ultimate prey.
Yeah,
they're two sides of a similar coin. They're both kind of like alien killing machines, different reason. Like a predator hunting a xenomorph would be this in the culture we've apparently seen. It'd be a big kind of honor thing to do, and it'd be very exciting, and it'd fit with their culture and stuff. And you could perhaps have a backstory, and that works best in space, surprisingly. So the mundanity of Earth versus what we've potentially could have had on some crazy fucking, the Colonial Marines end up going to some crazy embattled war planet. Or whatever, or on a big space station or whatever, instead of like, well, this one's going to take place in Surrey.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with Surrey, by the way.
So, but I think, it's absolutely. I think because aliens, or the world of aliens, which and as distinct from the world of Alien, actually, but I think the world of Aliens has a much more clear. It's much more its own thing. Like that film, yes, it features the alien, but it is a world. It builds a world, and I think that's the one with the clearest vision of the setting. So it's like that's what you need as a backdrop. You got like Predator is just a jungle. All right, it's heightened in terms of like the violence and everything, but it's like it's a jungle of Val Verde potentially.
Yes.
So it's kind of that you can kind of transplant the Predator, and the Predator is a sort of being that exists out of time, really. So, and it's a sci-fi thing, so fair enough. But I think, especially the alien, it needs to be in that world. It can't be just fucking, like you're saying, sorry, on a fox hunt.
That'd be really weird, but great. That like an Aliens, because Alien is in a bottle. They're in a ship, but in Aliens you actually see some of the. I always like the future suits with the lapels off. It's a nice subtle bit of future clothes and the ties and things.
It's got lapels. It's the collar sticks up.
Oh, that's it. So I'm thinking of something else. So it's kind of that kind of high. Yeah, it's a great little subtle adjustment and everything. And you see sort of she goes and gets a job for a bit, which is easy to forget. Look, she tearing up the power load of stuff, and then you see what the army's like. You see what that society's like, and people's disbelief over what she's seen, and the fact they get a good get let out because they've done a time skip. So you can do that. You got that kind of that you can change the world a little bit. I was going to say, Duncan. So I was going to say that we can end a little bit early tonight if you want, at 9:30. Gives us a few more minutes. Okay. Because I can tell you. I can tell you're knackers.
I'm sorry.
Dude, you've got your real life.
Yeah, I can hear my daughter screaming, and bless her, my wife.
Every time I close my eyes. My daughter screaming.
See her face.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, I'm just acutely aware my wife has been struggling with a shouting infant all day, and I've been working and am still working, so I feel a bit bad about that. So I'm gonna,
swearing on the internet.
I'll dash at some point, but I don't want to kind of cut everyone short here tonight either. So
that's fine. Well, I'm happy to end in a few minutes if you want, but if
sure. Well, if we
Otherwise,
happen upon, a particularly insightful discussion,
I tell you
see
what,
what
I'll
it
cut you a
goes.
deal. Let's go for another 10 minutes, shall we? We'll go to 9:40. Unless we
Yeah.
find a particularly insightful discussion. Oh.
Oh.
So, well, we're going to be doing Resident Evil 6 on Saturday night, continuing
Okay.
the spooky Halloween theme. We got one more week.
Spooky goblins.
I love it every time. Spooky goblins. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but we've got one more week of Halloween. Then I have to retire my Halloween intro and credits.
Oh yeah,
and
put it back in the cupboard.
back in the cupboard. Back to normal.
I'm going to. I will. Yes, it's my week, isn't it? I've got to come up with something for next week.
Yes, yeah. So
Right. Oh, and speaking of next week, sorry. Yes, I have pretty much cleared my schedule for Tuesday evening. I'm sorry. I know I said I would do it this week, but it just got away with me. But I'm going to do a Q&A for people on Tuesday for Patreon. So yes, and I think is that $5 and up or
$3 and up for the Q&A.
$3 and up. Sorry,
$5 for the watch parties.
There you go. So $3 and up. I shall be doing a Q&A on Tuesday evening. I think at 7 hour time, from 7 till 8.
Okay.
I'll do an hour. So let's say that. Yes, so I should do that. But I'll put a post out to that effect to let everyone know. I'd intended to do it this week, and I was actually going to do it last night. But literally, I'm not kidding. I was sat at my computer doing a bunch of stuff, and it just said Wednesday at the top of the screen, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, it's fucking Wednesday. I had no idea it was Wednesday. I just literally lost the plot. So I was like, well, I can't advertise this now because no one's going to fucking turn up. So Tuesday, everyone, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, I shall be doing a Q&A, and I'll probably, what did I say? I'll do top and bottom 5?
Top and bottom bonds that you were saying. I think 5 of each, was
top
it?
And tail.
Top and tail. Carl Wilson just sent $5.99. $5 Australian.
$5.99.
I said that the worst way. $5.99 Australian dollars. Carl's in the Antipodes. Scrotum, vagina. It's probably offensively early over there, mate. Thanks, Carl. I've seen Carl comment a few times saying that he's come along to these despite the fact he's on the other side of the planet. So good on you, mate. Thanks for popping in.
Cheers,
if you missed it, patrons, I put it on for Dijon Coleman hooked me up with a mod for Resident Evil 2 called Origin of Species, which is just ridiculously bonkers hard mod for RE2, which is really, really good, by the way, very nicely made mod. And Dijon hooked me up with that. So I did a quick test of the new camera and mic setup of that on Patreon yesterday. So if you missed it, you can go watch it again. It's about an hour. Playing on that. That's for all tiers. So $1 and up. I just did that for everybody. Cool. Rob Myers tipped me off, or reminded me that Canon have now done the webcam interface thing for PCs, so I could just use my DSLR for these. So thank you very much, Rob. I went and downloaded that and done it, and hopefully going to pass Duncan one of my spare DSLRs so he can upgrade his sexy look as well.
That is the plan, and I would love to be able to be making more content. It's been a source of frustration for me that I haven't been able to, because obviously the Monday slot is dormant at the moment.
Yes,
and I would like to be able to make some stuff for that. It's but it's just a case of time. I mean, I really don't have enough time, but I would love to be able to do that, and I'm going to try and think around something I could do once I have your camera that I can sort of do as I could just something to just quickly shoot into a camera and then bung it through, get it looking a bit sexy, and then
let's look if I can get. And my aim is try and get you one of my spare cameras to use. It might be the Panasonic, I think, because Panasonic have done an interface. I'm not sure if the Canon interface is available on Apple, which could be an issue. So I'm gonna I might try and get you my Lumix and see if we can do it that way, but just to get you a sexy upgrade. Sam Montgomery, £5. What do you guys think is the appeal of Friday the 13th? Found it weird how out of all the Halloween copycats in the early 80s this one sticked.
Stuck.
Cashback. Don't make grammar errors today. Duncan's not having it. Friday has really silly, outlandish kills, and I think that's what it was appeal to me. It's like, what crazy shit is Jason going to do next? Was always the appeal to me, without any of the kind of weird pretension that the Halloween series fell into. Was what I always
liked. I think what's interesting and what's different about Friday the 13th over and above everything else is it's like I suppose it was a Halloween clone. In a way, but the way it evolved was never sort of the original intent of the film, was it? Because Jason wasn't, he just became a slasher, and I suppose they kind of globbed onto that and went, well, it's the slasher craze, we need to have one.
It is hilarious how many course corrections are in Friday, and how insane. Like, it's insane. Like, it's genuinely insane. It's just like, what is going on? Because like they turn him into a zombie halfway through. It's like, really okay. And then by the time they go to space, they're doing it knowingly. They're sort of taking the piss,
Yeah.
People are talking about a Halloween movie for next week. That's come up a lot. It seems appropriate.
Well, I might put that in the mix. We'll see.
Yeah. So I will find out through WhatsApp.
You will. Halloween would be a great shout, I think. Are there 2 reboots of Halloween?
Kind of. There's 3 in the H20. Only considers the first 2 films, I think, and then there's a remake, and then the new one only considers the first film. So it depends what you want to call a reboot. I mean, straight up reboot, it's the Rob Zombie version, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah, and he did a reboot. He did a second.
He did. Yeah, there's a second one, which people did not like, from what I understand. People seem to like the first one.
Okay.
So I've never seen, because they got Malcolm McDowell as Dr. Loomis. I'm kind of like, that's a good substitution. I'm into that. But I've not watched it. Like, I just can't be arsed. I don't see like, a remake of Halloween. Is he going to kill people and then not die? Okay. I don't really know what it is you're trying to sell to me.
Babysitters.
Don't have sex. Oh no, you've been stabbed. Bitter bush. Too late.
You've been stabbed penally and clavically.
Clavically.
So she was having a pro, not a P, on the clavicle. Anyway,
a little anus separated.
Dear God. I mean, I just deal with shit at the moment. I have essentially a house with 3 assholes that I have to deal with, and one of them, and not including my wife.
I'm very glad you clarified, because I know you have pets, and it's sort of like, my wife's incontinent.
Well, let's give it time.
Oh, God.
Well, she was, put it this way, she was recovering from major abdominal surgery recently, but that's not the point. The point is, everything in my house shits. So all I see all day is just shitting and pissing, and some of it's in a nappy, some of it's on the lawn, some of it's in a litter tray. But that's why I think everything is so fecally centric on this channel, potentially. Anyway.
I look at Rob Myers, who works in VFX.
Yes.
I worked on a nice spooky update for the Universal logo for House of a Thousand Corpses, and it switched studios. Ouch. That sucks. I remember the Land of the Dead, weirdly, because that was Romero doing a rare studio feature. That opens with a really old, I don't know if it is just an old one, but an old school style Universal logo with like a kind of model plane going around the planet and stuff. It's really cool, black and white. It's sort of like, he's just doing that because that's the Universal he remembers, I guess, because he's a big kind of monster fan, or was a big kind of monster fan.
There's an awful lot of that kind of thing that gets shelved. Like, because wasn't the not that I've seen it, but the Cabin in the Woods film with Chris Hemsworth and stuff was made ages ago, and then got shelved because I think it was that and Red Dawn he was in. And both of them got put on the shelf, which is why people often talk about him kind of giving up on Hollywood, because he'd made those 2 films and I think they just got ditched. And he was like, fuck this.
Cabin in the Woods is really good. It's really cool, actually.
Thor happened, and then of course but the good thing is, again, this is an example of trying to bear in mind that what might seem like a curse is actually a blessing, because Thor happened for him after Star Trek, he got a boost in his career, and so obviously the studio saw those films as viable, so pumped them out. So you had this sort of real wave of Chris Hemsworth, because it was like, because what tends to happen with people who get thrust into the limelight in a big film is that like they don't have anything to back it up, so you don't see anything from them for another year or 2, and then it's probably a sequel to that. Rather than for him, it just suddenly seemed like he was this prolific actor. that like he had that, and then he had Cabin in the Woods, and blah, blah, blah. In 1 year there was something like 4 Chris Hemsworth films, and it looked like he was just working and
just smashing them out. When in fact,
yeah,
you should definitely watch, if you can, watch Cabin in the Woods with the wife before the end of October. Really great, really fun, very watchable movie. Red Dawn, on the other hand, I think Red Dawn was the one, because when Red Dawn, I think, was sitting about.
We started trying to watch that and just
it's awful. I think because they wanted to cross promote it with the RoboCop remake, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. MGM, being MGM, who was sitting on Red Dawn at the time, they wanted a scene in the RoboCop remake, and I don't know if it was Red Dawn now, but they wanted a scene in the RoboCop remake where one of the characters was watching the trailer for an upcoming MGM film. And then having another character going, "What are you doing?" "I'm watching the trailer for the upcut." Like, they wanted to do a kind of in-film product placement, which, like, when it's like a can of Coke or something, it's icky, but whatever. But when it's like a film that's creatively unrelated to the one you're watching, and it's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm watching the new MGM release." It's like, stop, wait, just stop.
I don't understand, because like, marketing people within studios seem sort of uniquely creatively tone deaf when it comes to stuff. You know what I mean? It's like that kind of like, how would that ever fly as a good idea? I'm not even saying, I mean, I don't even, who knows who that came from and how far it got, but it's like, surely I mean, and obviously someone's shut that down, but it's like but that you're just going to piss off whoever's watching this. Is just going to be pissed off that they're being advertised a film in a film that's got nothing to do with the film they're watching and that they paid to see. They'll be pissed off with the fact that like they had to sit through an hour's worth of bloody trailers anyway before they got to see the film they wanted to see.
Getting another
now
trailer.
You're trying to put them in the. It's like, come on, and that's but again, it's that word franchise, isn't it? It all comes back to that. It's that like, oh, do you like this franchise or that franchise? It's like, excuse me, when did we start talking about fucking franchises, not films? It's like, these are just feature length adverts for more adverts. It's not, I don't get it. It's
we could have lived in a world where that stuck, and luckily we don't. We just live in the timeline where the world's dying of a virus, which is much better, frankly. But yeah, I mean, it's the kind of stuff that they do sneak past you, because there's a bunch of heinous stuff that just goes on anyway because people didn't object. I think that's a step too far, you know what I mean? Because some fucking ghoul in a marketing department goes like, "Oh, why don't we start printing adverts on newborn babies?" Like, whatever. Like, it's just like etching Coca-Cola into a fetus's retina, and then you don't have to pay any fees to have it delivered in fucking dystopian hospital or whatever. Well, let's wrap it up, shall we?
Yeah.
Time for your bed, or not, or maybe looking after a baby. So I don't know.
Time to be screeched at.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
No.
Well, look, Duncan's going to do a thing on Tuesday. We've got a gaming stream on Saturday. I've recorded with Sam and Frank a Let's Play of Star Trek Bridge Crew, which I'm holding off until November because it's not a spooky goblin. So we hope you've had a good time. We hope you've had a good time. Thanks for sticking with us with our sound issues and me having a strop at the beginning. That's most appreciated.
Thank you for listening to my tired, inane babble.
He's just going to hit the red button on Zoom and just go.
I wish. Yeah, I wish.
Well, let's smash cut to credits, shall we?
Let's do.
We're going to say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, everyone, so much who's tuned in and everything. We really appreciate it. Really, really, really do.